Welcome to Stray Logic, the podcast that has its main focus on random thoughts, individual perception, and hearsay. Pull up a chair, some coffee, maybe a shot or two, and enjoy the ride. I'm Warren. We have Ryu here.
How's it going, everybody?
And Rooster.
What's up?
So, in today's podcast, we decided to bring up, and video podcast, don't forget to find us on YouTube now. We have the third episode. It's getting close to September, and something we actually all talked about in earlier episodes is bringing up 9/11. So this is the 9/11 informational segment, and the 9/11 conspiracy, and the 9/11 aftermath conspiracy.
It's all conspiracy.
It's all logic. So pull up a chair. You're gonna need a second for this one. There's gonna be a lot of information on the front end, but it's only because so much has happened. Like this is something that happened in modern times that affected almost everybody.
Yeah.
And there's
adults now remember this as just an iconic moment.
I mean, we were in grade school.
Yeah.
So
middle school, yeah.
So it's something we grew up with, and it's been a lot of people who've looked at it and try to debunk it and try to figure out what's going on, because if you really do look at it from what you're going to talk about, what we're going to talk about, I don't want to ruin anything. It does seem like there's either a cover-up or something just isn't right.
It's just a lot of stuff that doesn't add up.
Not for what the magnitude of what happened. So I'm gonna go over some time frames, so bear with me, and then from the time frames we're gonna jump right into it. So according to History.com, topics of the 21st century 9/11 timeline. So this is actually on the History Channel's website.
This is supposed to be the narrative of the official narrative from that day, from the word go that we knew something was wrong.
This is .com too, not .gov. So they're an agency and not the government. So right. This is .com. So this is the History Channel's timeline. And you can look this up too. I'll put it in the
link.
The link, yeah. So at 7:59, American Airlines Flight 11, a Boeing 767 with 92 people aboard, takes off from Boston, the international airport there, en route to Los Angeles. At 8:14 a.m., United Airlines Flight 175, a Boeing 767 with 65 people aboard, takes off from Boston. It is also headed towards Los Angeles. At 8:19, a flight attendant aboard Flight 11 alerted ground personnel that the plane has been hijacked. American Airlines notifies the FBI. A minute later, American Airlines Flight 77 takes off from, I think it's supposed to say Dallas International Airport of Washington, D.C. The Boeing 757 is headed to Los Angeles with 64 people aboard. At 8:24 a.m., hijacker Mohammed Atta makes his first of two accidental transmissions from Flight 11 to ground control, apparently an attempt to communicate with the other airplane. At 8:40, air traffic controls at the Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, alerts North American Aerospace Defense Command, NORAD's, Northeast Air Defense Sectors, about the suspected hijacking of Flight 11. In response, Northeast American Defense Sector, and they call it NEADS, scrambles two fighter planes located at Cape Cod's Otto's Air National Guard Base to locate and tail Flight 11. They are not yet in the air when the Flight 11 crashes into the North Tower. So the first, at 8:40, the first.
So the
first
jets
plane
to scramble to take care of this. They
didn't even get up before it hit.
Wow.
8:41 a.m. United Airlines Flight 93, a Boeing 757 with 44 people aboard, takes off from Newark International Airport en route to San Francisco. It has been scheduled to depart at 8 a.m. around the time the other hijacked flights. At 8:46 a.m., Mohammed Atta and the other hijackers aboard American Airlines Flight 11 crash a plane into the 93 and the 99th floor of the North Tower at the World Trade Center, killing everyone aboard and hundreds inside the building. 8:50, White House Chief of Staff Andrew Card alerts President George W. Bush that the plane had hit the World Trade Center. The president is visiting an elementary school in Florida at the time. It's like Sarasota, Florida. Sarasota, thank you. At 9:02 a.m., after initially instructing tenants of the World Trade Center South Tower to remain in the building, Port Authority officials broadcast orders to evacuate both towers via the public address system. An estimated 10 to 14,000 people people are already on the process of evacuating. 9:03, hijackers crashed United Airlines Flight 175 into the 75th to the 85th floor of the World Trade Center South Tower, killing everyone on board and hundreds inside the building. At 9:08, the FAA bans all takeoffs of flight to the New York City or through the aerospace around the city.
Can I just point that out right there? It took them over 20 minutes from the time the first tower was hit for them to stop allowing flights.
And at this point in time, three airplanes, big airplanes, were hijacked.
Yeah, 20 minutes between impact, not even just notice of hijacking, any of that impact.
Okay,
before they shut down the rest of the flight.
There's probably a lot of questions are going to come up. This is something you just noticed, or
yeah, just going through this, it's like that's a question right there.
Quick question: where was he at in Florida? Bush,
Sarasota. At 9:21 a.m., the Port Authority closes all bridges and tunnels to New York City area. At 9:24 a.m., the FAA notifies NEADS, which is the Northeastern Air Defense, of a suspected hijacking of Flight 77 after some passengers and crew aboard are able to alert family members on the ground. 9:31 a.m., speaking from Florida, President Bush calls the event in New York City a apparent terrorist attack on our country. 9:37, hijackers aboard Flight 77 crash a plane into western facade of the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., killing 59 aboard the plane and 125 military and civilian personnel inside the building. At 9:42 a.m., for the first time in history, the FAA grounds all flights or bound for the continental U.S. Over the next 2.5 hours, some 3,300 commercial flights and 1,200 private planes are guided and landed in the airports in Canada and the United States. At 9:45 a.m., Ahmad escalates rumors of another attack. The White House and U.S. Capitol building are evacuated, along with numerous other high-profile building landmark and public spaces. 9:59, the South Tower of the World Trade Center collapses. 10:07, after passengers and crew members aboard the hijacked Flight 93 contact friends and family and learn about the attacks in New York and in Washington, they mount an attempt to retake the plane. In response, hijackers deliberately crash the plane into a field in Somerset County, Pennsylvania, killing all 40 passengers and crew aboard. 10:28 a.m., the World Trade Center North Tower collapses 102 minutes after being struck by Flight 11. 11 a.m., Mayor Rudolph Giuliani calls for the evacuation of Lower Manhattan south of Canal Street, including more than 1 million residents, workers, and tourists, as efforts continue throughout the afternoon to search for the survivors of the Western Trade Center site. 1 p.m. At Barkside Air Force Base in Louisiana, President Bush announces that U.S. military forces are on high alert worldwide. 2:51 p.m., the U.S. Navy dispatches missile destroyers to New York and Washington, D.C. 5:20 p.m., the 47-story 7 World Trade Center collapses after burning for hours. The building had been evacuated in the morning. There are no casualties, though the collapse forces rescue workers to flee for their lives. It is the last of the two towers to fall. 6:58, President Bush returns to the White House after stops at military bases in Louisiana and Nebraska. 8:30 p.m., President Bush addresses the nation, calling the attacks evil, despicable attacks of terror, and declared that America and its friends and allies would stand together to win a war against terrorism. Man, just talking about it, I got like, it's for real again.
It's definitely weird
to talk about, especially with the time frames. It kind of
it makes you relive that day.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah, because we all remember that day.
Yeah. So something I really want to point out before we because this is Conspiracy Channel / Times, is that we don't want to take away from what happened.
No.
We don't want to
the magnitude of this effect was something that felt across the globe.
I mean, we still feel it.
I have goosebumps right now.
Just talking about it,
just
it's real.
Reverberation, because it was real. I mean, we don't have all the answers, and that's why we have discussions like this, because I think there's questions that are valid that need to be asked, but we don't want to take away from the fact that thousands of people died that day, and many more thousands worked really, really hard to try and save people.
And to this day, people are still dying from it. It's something that's not that we're actually going to talk about too.
Yep.
It's important to, I think, to try to get to the truth of something, and actions speak towards truth. So what's going to be brought up is not to push anything under the rug, to not take away from the seriousness, but it's to honestly dive deeper into what happened. Again,
This is something that impacted
people lost
our
family. Yeah,
culture.
Yeah,
I
our
mean,
culture. We've been at war since. I
yeah.
mean, so I don't want anybody to take away from this that we're like,
we're
not attacking anybody. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is a serious topic. This is interesting because I don't want to trigger anybody, but not for any other reason than like it's
to
for
make you
real
think
topic to
about
me
it.
too. Yeah, like this is something that I want to have a discussion about, but not because we're trying to be like make a joke of it, but because I really do want to have a discussion on a subject. This is crazy. Like the first time it's first time it's been real in a long time, and we're almost on the 18th anniversary of it.
Yeah.
Crazy. So let's dive into some of the questions that need to be asked. And again, just reading from that, like they started downing the flights when 20 minutes after.
Yeah, so
The
they
first
did
tower
not
was hit.
They did not stop flights coming into New York City until 20 minutes after the first tower was hit.
But that first tower was hit before even the air defense could get in the sky.
Yeah, after they knew that a hijacking was going on and all that other stuff, it was already too late.
So what website are you at?
So yeah, the site that I am on is called Collective Evolution, and then the name of the article is 24 Hard Facts about 9/11 that cannot be debunked. And there's quite a few that just on this list were concerns that I've heard in the past, so it was kind of cool to see this list that was all compiled together. Number one right on the list was that there was nanothermite was found in the dust at Ground Zero. All of the dust samples had this nanothermite in it, so they tested all of them to see what kind of explosives could have been used, or if they're looking for human remains, right? Because that was another thing that got brought up. Something else I've seen is the human remains that were found. A majority of them were very, very small pieces.
Yeah,
So
there's still
that's-
over 1,000 people they still are unaccounted for.
When people
Well, I mean,
got their
high
loved ones
heat
back
and
as
stuff like
remains,
that, yeah.
it was very, very little. There's not much of a human body that's going to survive something like that.
Crushing,
so, yeah, it's
burning.
just catastrophe.
Yeah,
It's
catastrophe.
horrible. But there was nanothermite in all the dust samples. This stuff is not, something that people that live in a cave half a world away can make and bring over here and blow up a building with. So that was interesting. If you don't know what thermite is, it's an explosive. It's a compound, I guess, between two materials, and it has its own oxygen source. So that's
Kind of like a
that's the
flare. When
big
you light a
thing.
flare off, it burns based on chemical,
It's
not
a
an
chemical
oxygen, because you can
reaction,
put it
yeah.
underwater and still run it.
So theoretically, once the building collapses, and
Well,
there's
once it starts
no
burning, it won't
oxygen,
stop.
Yeah, it
It'll
doesn't
just
stop
keep
until
burning.
the fuel source is gone. So.
And that shouldn't be there.
No, that is strictly for demolition and explosives and certain processes that would have nothing to do with
Yeah, wouldn't have been
being
found
in
in
a
It
jet
shouldn't
fuel.
be there,
Yeah,
right,
no
yeah.
jet fuel,
Yeah.
Yeah, if that's in jet fuel, they're trying to burn the airplane down.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Another one that brought up, the whole response time for NORAD. Dick Cheney, our vice president at the time, was in command of NORAD on 9/11 while running war games. So we all are aware of what war games are. They are simulations
yeah.
or test flights, test patterns, test this, test that. So yeah, they were running. It's quite the coincidence that they were running war games in New York City, Washington D.C. on 9/11.
Yeah, so a lot of the people that were on the comms that day didn't know that it was a real hijacking. They thought it was
They
a
thought it was
drill.
part of this war games thing.
Mhm.
So
Really?
That was, yeah,
Yes.
that was a lot of the miscommunication, and possibly why we're seeing, why we are seeing delays in the timeline is because this was all happening. So people were like, "Oh, this is part of what NORAD's doing," and then it was like, "Oh no, it's not." So that there is, and that's why we all have these questions, because there's valid viewpoints from multiple different directions. So there's
Multiple
a lot of
sources,
stuff going
yeah.
on that.
There's recordings from the flight, not the flight people, but I don't know what they're called, the people that sat in the chair and watch the screen for the flights.
The flight controller.
Oh yeah, there you go. The air traffic controller. They were talking to each other, and there's recordings of this. They didn't know what was going on. They were like, "Is this part of the drill, or what's going on?" They had no answer.
Really? I didn't know that.
Mhm.
Another interesting one that I've
picked at for quite a while was that on September 10th, the day before the attacks, Donald Rumsfeld reported $2.3 trillion was missing from the Pentagon. Now that doesn't seem like a lot of money when our national debt is over 20 trillion.
Back then it
at
wasn't as high,
this time in 2001, I think our national debt was right at about 4 to 5 trillion. Don't quote me on that. I could be a little bit wrong, but this 2.3 trillion was significant, like massively significant. So
This is the day before?
This is the day before,
And-
and they just said basically, it's gone. We don't know where it went. We don't know what
And
happened
the part
to
of
it.
the Pentagon that
We
was
don't.
hit was
Yes,
the part
and-
that controlled all of that money and all the finances and everything.
Any kind of report or commission, anything that could have been done to find out where that money went,
Gone.
it was vaporized in that blast.
Huh.
So another odd coincidence.
Yeah, there's several. I'm sure there's gonna be several, and that's probably why you. Yeah.
Yeah, and then these are just things that we see. Hindsight's 2020. You know, we see these things after the fact. Questions have been asked after the fact, and they still don't have valid answers.
I even think that the people who don't believe it was an inside job, because the
They
conspiracy
still have
points at,
questions. Yeah.
yeah, I still have questions because not everything adds up. You know, like it's, you know, when Japan wanted to go to war with China, they attacked their own country. When Germany wanted to invade Denmark, they attacked their own country.
We did the same thing with the Gulf of Tonkin.
Yeah, I mean, every time, like when a country wants to start a war, the easiest way to rally the troops, like the civilians, is to make it seem like we're under attack.
Look
It's
for an
happened in
enemy,
the past.
Find an enemy. Yeah.
We'll create an enemy.
Create the enemy. Yeah.
Hmm.
That's called a false flag.
Continue.
That was, yeah. That's actually, I'm on number 13, so number 14 is about false flags.
Oh, okay.
The towers were built, they were engineered and constructed and designed to withstand multiple hits from a Boeing 707. Now, obviously, the planes that hit them were bigger, not the same plane that they were designed to withstand a hit from.
But several of a big size
several
one.
hits, yeah.
Yeah.
So they were, from what this says, is like it was meant to be, the way the towers were constructed, is that if something hit it broadside like that, it was meant to be like a straw puncturing a piece of paper. So it's just pop right through it, and if you look at the way that the buildings are designed, the massive steel girders, it's like a giant cage, and it's built from the outside, and it's just steel girders all the way around it, and it's just a giant steel tower, and then all the office buildings are put in between those steel towers. So, yeah, they were engineered very well. They were not, you know.
I don't know if this is true too, but beforehand they said the construction workers were going up and down through the building. I remember hearing about it or reading about it that like for months beforehand it was people doing work on like parts of the building and like
Yeah, well, that's-
construction,
yeah,
but
yeah.
like in
They
in
said-
a weird way that wasn't needed.
They said there was a couple in each.
Renovations and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
in each tower, a couple of the elevators were actually shut down.
Yes,
for
yeah, I
like
heard
2
that.
months before they had
For no reason.
Yeah.
Well,
heightened fire drills. They had the powers cut off for a couple hours, and they had people coming in and out doing like drills. I don't know, like certain fire drills, and all the fire alarms were set on a different mode than what they normally were, and the security.
You think it was to desensitize people?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So more people stayed inside? I can imagine living and being the person that told everybody it's okay, go back inside.
right.
I
Yeah.
fucking
And they
Agreed.
had heightened security in the basement, right? So they were checking all the
Anybody
vans
that
coming
went in
in.
and out, personnel
Mhm.
that went in and out of the basement, they was like, "Who are you and why are you here?"
Hmm.
You know? Also, another thing with like the first point that we brought up with the thermite, that in order for a building structure that size for a controlled demolition, it literally takes months to set them up. So just because the labor, the man hours of going through and placing the explosives at the right point,
because that's what the
something like that.
conspiracy is
That's
that
yeah, if
we
that's
blew
a
up our own
conspiracy.
buildings.
Right. They're saying that's why the thermite's there, that, you know, it was a controlled demolition, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if that's true or not. I try to think that it's not, but, you know, that's a valid point, that there's explosive material in all dust samples, and that it takes months for that to be set
And
up.
that's why they bring up the beam at the bottom, that it's cut at a certain angle, just like in demolitions.
Was it with
There was
is
a
that-
picture of a firefighter moving rubble, and there was a beam from like right at the basement, and you can see where it just looks like something went across and just, I mean,
Like a clean cut.
These
Clean
are
cut, yeah.
inches thick steel beams, and it's just it looks like something just severed it. But you can see where it was like slag and molten, and like, but it was a clean cut straight across. So me, personal experience, I was a welder in a past life. That can be done with some pretty heavy duty equipment, but the way that that picture was portrayed, and I think in proper context, is like this was still in the middle of like, we're just getting stuff out, we're just trying to clear the way to try and make it through all this rubble, and there it was, this steel beam just sat there, looked
So
like
it could be
cut.
it could be A, that it was cut beforehand,
Correct.
or B, that they're trying to get to people to save people and cut it.
At the point that that picture was taken, they're saying that none of that equipment had been brought in to actually
Oh.
start cutting away to get stuff. This was like literal manpower. Like, we have people here start moving rocks and like try and find
I
bodies.
can't imagine how much rubble there was. and-
Yeah, I mean, it's just millions of tons of dust and concrete and just paper.
Damn.
Who knows? It's just,
Was there any other?
Oh yeah, there was more.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, we get
No, I
sidetracked.
mean,
this
it's
stuff's
just-
just very real. It's just, you think about it, and that's.
Well, it's for real questions. At first, I remember like talking about it, like because they're so sensitive. At first, just bringing these subjects up was like,
You couldn't even talk about it.
I
It's
think
like,
of my
you
first
were
memories of people getting triggered, like
so
the act-
unpatriotic if
Yeah.
you ever question the story.
it was
Yeah.
anti-American to
Yeah.
even bring it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that. I remember that's the first thing people like. Our generation wasn't get mad about everything.
No.
It's just recently people do, but that was the first thing that people actually got, for
Just
lack of better terms, they got
flared up.
triggered. They were like almost willing to fight each
Yeah,
other
how
over.
dare you?
Yeah, like
Well, it was, and
patriotism
here's
was
my-
really high at the time too.
Well, and it kind of spiked that nationalism thing that, you know,
Mhm.
these were foreign people that attacked our homeland. Like, it just got that whole hoorah. Like, how many fucking American flags were sold in the next couple years?
Yeah, I
after
mean
9/11?
everybody
It was
patriotic.
cool to see that, but it was sad that that's what it took to get us to that
That's what
camaraderie.
they always take.
But then again, we were taking it to an extreme, and kind of where we're at now, where it was like we held it against everybody.
Yeah.
You know, it didn't matter. It's like America, you know, all the horrible shit that we've done to other countries, and it's like this one time, and then yeah, I don't know. It was very, very bizarre time to be alive. It was weird to watch it happen. I wish I was older to have a
To be
more
able to have a
objective
better- yeah,
view
yeah.
of it. Yeah. All right. So here's the false flag one: the history of American false flag attacks. So these are just names that you can go through and do your own research.
Which I hope you do.
Yeah, I hope you do too. The USS Liberty, Gulf of Tonkin, Operation Northwoods, the OKC city bombing. So yeah, that was another bombing on a massive scale. You know, that was pretty devastating. Not on the same level as 9/11, but the OKC bombings were pretty big. The 1993 World Trade Center attack, and that's another question that can be brought up. You know, there was a massive explosion that was done in
Basement.
the basement of one of these buildings, and steel girders were blown out, and there's a lot of devastation and damage, and the tower was just fine.
Yeah, the building didn't move.
fall, it
Nothing.
didn't crumple, it didn't shake. You know, it was just, it shrugged it off and went on. So that was kind of bizarre, and that happened in the basement. That's the foundation.
Yeah, they tried attacking the foundation. of it.
is the
That was
that's
considered a
the
terrorist attack
strength.
too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yep. So we got that, and then there's Patrick Clausen, and don't even know that one. Project for the New American Century needed a new Pearl Harbor, and rebuilding America's defenses. 9/11 achieved those goals. Oh, I think I know what that's referencing. Patrick Clausen, I think that's a dude that's talking. I've seen the video a couple times, and it's like, you know, he's talking about America needed Pearl Harbor in order to get involved with World War II, and we needed the Gulf of Tonkin incident to happen in order to get involved with Vietnam. So like these big incidents that have happened in
Well,
our
'cause
nation's history. Have
We were a
always
neutral
happened
country in a
before
lot
we
of those times.
initiated
We didn't
war.
want to go to war. We didn't want to fight another major war. Like World War One, we didn't want to
Not
get involved in
until it
that.
turned into a business.
Yeah, well, we just wanted to let the Europeans fight each other. Like, let them fight.
Well,
Like,
it
if
was
they're gonna
easier,
fight, they've been
yeah.
fighting forever against each other.
Have at it. Yeah.
And then we got drug into them.
Well, yeah. All right. Not all of these are interesting, so
Yeah, I mean, it's all. These
this
are
one was
valid
very
questions
this
so
was
far.
very interesting. I didn't realize this until I read this article. So President Bush hesitated for 441 days before starting the 9/11 Commission. So the 9/11 Commission is the government document that is the explanation and the story and the official narrative of to what happened on 9/11 and why. So it took Bush 441 days for him to even initiate that process, more than a year. When JFK was assassinated and when Pearl Harbor happened, it took them less than a week, 7 days. They were started within.
Well, there's
7
another
days.
thing you brought up too is the amount they put into it versus
Yeah, that's the next one. The 9/11 Commission was given extremely limited funds of $15 million. Sounds like a lot of money, but $60 million was given for the investigation of Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky's affair. So put that in perspective. The America's largest terrorist attack
yeah.
or anything on American soil
at the time
that
it was believed to be America's largest terrorist attack ever.
Yeah.
Most civilians that were targeted.
Yeah,
And
it got kind of a fart in the wind compared to.
Here's my pocket change.
Yeah, it's just why was only 15 million given to investigate the largest terrorist attack on American soil?
Yeah, as opposed to who's sucking this dude's dick under the.
Yeah. Why did that fucking matter more? How many people died because of that? Nobody. How many people died on 9/11?
Yeah,
No,
no,
that's-
innocence.
Yeah.
Innocence died.
All right.
And again, this episode is a little more somber than most, but
Yeah. Trying not to delve too far into the conspiracy because I just don't know, but like I want to know.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the thing is like we ask
Yeah,
these
it's
questions because we want to know
well, it's
real truth.
so. And now you can joke about it with your friends, and people kind of like are a little more relaxed about it. But once you actually have to have a serious conversation about it, your brain
It
immediately goes to the
changes.
same thing. Like, I don't want it to be a conspiracy.
No, I don't either. I mean to think that
But
the
it's hard
American
to-
government would
yeah.
do this to its own people.
And
But
it's
it's
hard to ignore facts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's
That's the hard part.
'Cause
Like you
remember,
said,
I'm-
actions.
like I
These are
said,
actions done by our government.
we are all on different spectrums when it comes to what we believe. But this is something that I don't know if it's
kind of get on the
'cause-
same page about.
Yeah, because I mean, so psychology is my jam. That's what I've studied. I went to college for, and what's interesting is like, why do we all, especially if we're all on different wavelengths, when it comes to like what we're knowing and understanding, why do we all feel the same way about something? Have we been brainwashed to feel that way? Have we?
Because they're objective truths in their holes in the story. And
Well,
we can all
and
see it.
I mean, but why do we all feel so like immediately we went from joking around beforehand to like, oh fuck, like this is what we're talking about, like. Is it because we were so young? Is it because we were taught to believe this way? Like in psychology, when everybody circle around the same thing, it's because they're taught that.
It's usually groupthink.
Yeah. So, but at the same point in time,
Wow.
it was something that I remember vividly.
My interpretation is I mean it's a little bit of indoctrination, it's a little bit of propaganda, it's a little bit of the controlled narrative that we were fed when we were kids that this is what happened, so we feel that way, but we feel weird because we're questioning what we were told. So,
Well, it's not even that too. It's what we've seen.
Yeah, because we all watched the news that day.
yeah,
Everybody
I
watched the
don't-
news that day.
Yeah, we sat in. I remember they brought a TV into my classroom.
Yeah, we sat in
those
school and
old
watched it.
school like box TVs
Yeah.
from the library, and
it was just a different day. My
Nobody
wife
said
didn't
nothing.
even go to school that day. Her mom was like, "You're not going to school."
Yeah,
like, it was.
I sat there and just watched it. I remember like looking around the classroom and be like, this is really happening. Like this actually happened. Like almost like disbelief. And I
It
didn't
was,
know.
yeah,
I
it didn't
wasn't
seem
sure how to
real.
how to
Yeah.
feel. Like
Well, it's
how
hard.
are you supposed to
It's
feel?
hard when you're a little guy in
We're
school.
kids,
You
yeah.
don't know what the impact of that is, but you could still tell. Like it was just a vibe. It was like
It was the whole nation
whoa.
had like a sobering moment.
Mhm.
Like, and I've never felt anything at the same magnitude since.
No,
Like even all the things have happened.
all the terrible shit. But
Yeah,
that
like
was different
all
that
the stuff.
day.
Like
It was,
you feel bad for like the times that like France has been attacked so many times. Like when they had the shooting in the places. Like all those things. Like your brain goes, man, that's terrible. But that was the first time America didn't feel safe. It was a real sombering. The whole nation was quiet. Like we all were like, what now?
Yeah.
What do you do after something like this? I think it was our first awakening to the atrocities of the world because we
Yeah.
were so stuck on ourselves.
well, as atrocities, and that's another thing that makes me want to believe that it wasn't some weird false flag, that it was pissed off people from a foreign land, because America had been going around.
Well, we just
The
kicked.
world was our stomping grounds. We went around and just did whatever the fuck we wanted.
Well,
We
this was
changed
shortly after,
war,
10 years
fucking-
after Desert Storm,
Yeah.
where we basically the third strongest military in the world. We beat them
We
in
just
70.
wiped them.
You know,
Just-
like in the month it was
Yeah.
over. Like there's nothing.
And that's always been, that's what America is. That's why we are
But
a superpower. We are the world's
We stopped
military
because the
superpower.
UN didn't want us to press in there. So during the Desert Storm, we could have completely changed the regime at the point in time, but we decided not to go in there. So
Well,
it was an excuse to
allegedly-
go into Iraq.
Allegedly, Osama bin Laden was
Well-
involved with Desert Storm, and we knew about him back then.
Well, we used to. So the CIA used to give Osama bin Laden, used to
Train.
aid him, train his troops. So
Yep.
what Green Berets do is they are a false multiplier. We find somebody who has a positive outlook on our government, our politics, and stuff like that. We fly people in there to train them. We give them equipment, and we gave him stuff to fight Russia. So they fought because Russia invaded Afghanistan. So we gave them a bunch of stuff to go and fight Russia, and trained them up and gave them money to be able to sustain that fight. So we didn't have to do it.
You know, we
That's
created
Weapons and
Al
it
everything,
Qaeda.
happens all over the world. That's the responsibilities of is to not get involved, but to get involved asymmetrically. So the warfare is not us fighting; it's them fighting. Doing the fighting for us because they're willing to. So we trained them. We gave him everything, but he was pro-America. That's why we did it. Otherwise, we'd have chosen another force.
Allegedly.
Well, I mean, at the time, he was because fuck, we gave him money. We gave him.
But that's what they're saying.
But-
that he was the mastermind because he wasn't pro-America.
I don't know how to feel
It's-
about
it's
that.
all right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, I know. It's.
What else? What else is
I know I've seen pictures of him. He was training with. Yeah.
Yeah, with CIA agents.
Yep.
But
Oh,
I mean,
it's-
we had them fight Russia for us.
But that's the thing is that asymmetrical fighting where we're just
It happens. We do
we're
it everywhere.
pushing stuff here. Here's some stuff. Here's some
That's the
stuff. Go
first
play
thing
with
we
it.
do.
But is
For
that
reals,
is
that's
that the
the-
right thing to do?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, we're doing it it's saving American lives. So there are already resistant groups in these countries. Our job is to go in there and train them how to fight. So like if there is a dictator or there is a force that we don't like that are anti-America, our job is to train the civilians and help the people who are willing to fight for us. Be like, hey, you guys help, because anytime a country goes to a civil war, they go through a war. There's like rebellions that are branching up. They always look for foreign aid. Like, hey, give us what we need, and we'll overthrow this government. And we'll go to a democracy. We'll go to something that will be beneficial to us. We'll have a positive ties. That's why Syria was such a cluster for so long, is because all those groups picked different people to go to. Some people went to Palestine, some people went to Russia, some people went to America, some people were pro-government. So you have 4 different forces fighting in one area, all fighting for the same thing. They wanted control. So like that's why it was almost a world war, because all of a sudden we're all there and we're all like, we're helping, and if you attack any of our civilians, if you attack any of our military aides, we'll come after you. So it was a tipping point of like a true, like, we almost had a world war, because we're all sitting there like, we're all here, so what do we do? Like, we're all different interest in this region. That was a big thing for like 5 years through these last 10 years. But it's all kicked off from the World Trade Centers when we went over to Afghanistan, and then we went into Iraq.
Started kicking everybody's ass.
And we had no business going to Iraq,
We went there for the gold and the oil.
the gold and the oil. But I mean, this is why we went to Afghanistan, is to fight terrorists. Allegedly, yeah. I mean, we're still there
So
fighting
here's
them.
another correlating fact that's interesting and something that is affecting our society today. Before 9/11 and before the War on Terror, Afghanistan produced about 3% of the world's population of opium. After 9/11, after American occupancy of Afghanistan, that went up to about 90% of the world's opium. So we had American troops, I have personal friends that I've talked to that they were the dudes over there. We've had American troops guarding poppy fields, letting tribal people from the land of Afghanistan cultivate this crop. We take the crop from them, we pay them whatever they want, whether it's guns, money,
Well, some of
whatever.
it,
We take that crop and it gets put over into pharmaceutical companies.
too. The reason we were doing that is because we didn't want, like, that's our major export, believe it or not. We didn't
It's been
want
around for a long
Al
time.
Qaeda to get a hold of those fields and make money off of that. They were trying to starve them. So there's a double side to that, like there's a reason
but
that we
look
were
at our
letting them do it.
Look at our opiate epidemic that
Oh, absolutely.
our country's
Right now.
dealing with
But
now.
the war on drugs has been a complete failure.
From the get-go, from
Yeah.
the word go. So why did we go
Like,
to
why
war?
is that a thing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
why did we go to war and then we take control of all this opium and now we have an opium epidemic or opiate epidemic in our country? Afghanistan doesn't have an opium epidemic. We do.
Yeah. Is there anything else that?
Oh yeah. Let's see here. The Patriot Act. That was very interesting. So
How soon? Because that was a big book that was written in a very
Yeah.
short amount of
So
time.
the Patriot Act was written before 9/11, and it was signed into law on October 26th, 2001. So roughly a month and a half
Yeah, so
later.
it's pre-planned.
So yeah, the
How
Patriot
does,
Act
how does it
was-
say it was written beforehand? Is there anything on information on that?
I'm sure I could find it out.
Because that's interesting. It's an interesting proclamation, but at the same time, I'd like supporting facts that says that it was writ beforehand, or like I doubt they would date it. You know, like
Don't they have to?
not just when they're signing law into.
Just when it comes into effect.
Yeah, just when it comes into effect, because now it was new laws. I mean, that's when the TSA became a thing.
Yep.
They've been around for a long time now. Almost. See, there was a time for some of you younger listeners out there that you didn't even have to you just went and flew.
You just went on an
showed up
airplane.
and got an airplane. Yeah,
You used to be able to take pocket knives. You could have anything under 3 inches.
yeah. It was, well, that's what it was. You could do the soaps and stuff. Like people don't realize that.
Yeah,
You used to be able-
liquid.
yeah.
Yeah, there was never a restriction on you could take a water bottle.
It was like getting a taxi almost. You just showed up, got your ticket, went, got on your plane. Now
That
it's
was crazy.
It changed
yeah. Now it's
everything.
standing in lines and pat downs.
Fucking
and
hours.
That's
machines that like
Scan you.
scan your body
Mhm.
and
Well, it exposes you to radiation. They have that fucking, half-ass X-ray machine. I can't find anything on when the Patriot Act was actually written.
oh okay. Well, what about more?
There's this giant article about it.
You can
but
read all
yeah.
of that shit.
Let's see here. So yeah, the Patriot Act, it's a big piece of legislation.
That was a big piece. That was a lot of freedom that was
they-
taken away from the
Yeah,
American
it
people.
gave the government the
They
ability
were allowed
to
to
do a lot
spy
of
on us. That's when they started
surveillance.
really spying on us. So at least
Yeah.
openly.
And it's
said
kind
they
of
could.
coming out now that the Patriot Act is responsible for a lot of the shit that's going on with Russiagate and Hillary and fucking all the DNC and all the crap that went on with that. So
Oh, it's back to that bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, she's a swell lady.
Yeah. She kind of has her hands in everything, doesn't she?
Yeah, she's like who's the richest people? The richest family.
Rothschilds.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Rockefellers,
their name comes up more now than
right. Yeah.
which is crazy because that was for the longest time the biggest conspiracy before conspiracies were like as mainstream as they are now.
Yeah.
Was that like they're behind everything, but now the Clintons openly almost are behind everything and nobody.
Yeah,
Like
they're
they-
almost
it's
untouchable.
accepted,
Yeah,
yeah.
they're kind of smug about it. It's kind of like
Yeah.
do something. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird.
Again,
one
they're
of,
slow
one of
people.
the last things. There's not a whole lot of information here, but I have dug into it a little bit. You would do well to do your own research, but there was a lot of insider trading going on leading up to and directly after the 9/11 attacks. I do know that the guy that either owned the property, like the actual World Trade Center,
Oh, I heard about this,
property, or he owned the lease, something along the
He
lines
took
of
an
that.
insurance policy.
Insurance policy
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, so did Rumsfeld.
Twice the size of what a normal insurance policy would be. And then after the attacks, he sued the insurance company because there was 2 planes that hit 2 towers. So he fought and won
Separate
and called them
events.
separate terrorist attacks.
Separate.
So he pulled out the
Wow.
double the financial
Fucking-
policy, and then he sued. So he made 4 times as much money off of those buildings getting hit than if they just would have kept standing that
Yep.
day. So there's a lot of
Rumsfeld
weird
did the
shit
same
like
thing
that.
with Tower 7.
The one that fell across the
Yeah,
street.
the one that was never
That
hit
never
by a
even hit
plane,
by a plane, just went down.
and that fell at free fall speed.
Yeah.
That-
Well, he was on record saying that they said they were going to pull the building.
That was the one building. That's the one thing that I've noticed that I remember they talked about that building collapsing before it ever happened. That was the last building to fall, and it was the first building they said collapsed.
And was weird as it didn't even get hit.
it never got hit.
No.
It was adjacent, and they said it got caught on fire due to
Even on
adjacent,
live coverage, the news anchor's standing in front
front
like,
of the building, and they
we-
said it fell.
we got word that Tower 7 has fallen, and you could see it in the background. It's still standing, and she's like kind of standing, trying to block it, like in the background. And then she's like, "Oh, Tower 7 fell. Tower 7's going down," and then didn't go down for a couple minutes. She was already reporting that it fell before it even.
Really,
fell.
I've never seen that.
Yeah.
And that was the last one to fall, and it was a much smaller building, and there was more like people around watching what happened when Tower 7 fell, and that was the one that they said you can see the explosions in the windows. They have video. You can see the upper stories. You'll see boom,
back then,
lights
too,
flash, windows blow out. Lights
we
flash,
didn't
windows
have
blow out.
cell
And
phones
then-
like we do now.
Whoa.
It was
No.
video
No,
camcorders.
surveillance cameras. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
closed captioning.
It's weird,
closed
like
circuit television.
how far
Yeah.
technology's come.
Text comes a long way.
Yeah, back then, like now, everybody would have.
Nobody
it would
had
have
cell phones and
yeah.
shit back there. That was how a couple of the people got a hold of family members was the few people that had cell phones on the plane. I think there was like 4 or 5 people that had cell phones.
Well,
on
they
the
had
plane.
phone
That was
planes
it.
too. It's rare. I mean, it's just such
Yeah.
a the times were so
2001.
different. Yeah,
It's
I mean,
weird. It wasn't
18
that long
years
ago, but it was.
yeah, it was. Well,
Tech,
I mean, it was.
Tech-wise, tech is so fast.
There'll be a
that-
day when everybody who was alive during that time won't be around anymore. Like this is honestly your like minus what's on TV, but that would be old too. This is like the last. This is a hand.
We're the youngest generation, really, that's gonna remember this.
Yep.
You know?
One day when we're not here, there's no more.
There's no more.
Yeah. So like, we were there. We were
That's
alive
why-
during it. We were
yeah.
kids. We were old enough to understand what was going on, but not like our generation went and fought the war.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I've had friends die, uncles die. I've lost a lot of people that I've known and friends who went and fought, and like our generation went and paid that price, the massive price. If you think about 10 years, from 18 to or it's 18 years.
Yeah.
You take 10 years of that. Last 18 years, our generation went and fought a lot of that war.
Yeah.
Like we were waiting to grow up to go. I mean, I tried joining several times. I wanted to go and fight.
Yeah. So did I.
Like a lot of our friends went and fought. We've our generation and just the one before that, that 10-year gap that makes the generation. We all went and fought those wars. So we're that generation, that
Generation zero,
that has suffered
yeah.
the most from it. The ones after us, the 2000, the new Generation X, they call it. They don't understand.
They're fighting the residual effects of the war, but they're not. They're
Not the war,
seeing
the
what
true
was
like
started,
got hit
yeah.
by the beginning of it,
Yeah.
lived through it, watched.
They're in different countries now over bullshit that doesn't even matter. So
Yeah, like Afghanistan is a world away for a lot of people. Like
Yeah.
they don't even know we're at war with
Yeah.
them. They know Iraq or Syria or
Syria.
ISIS or like
Russia.
a whole
now.
the whole different world that we knew growing up. They're not even old enough to really understand that stuff. Because when I was 16, 17, or 18 years old, I didn't know, not like I know now.
Didn't know how the world worked.
Yeah, like now
politics
you see it.
and
Yeah,
wars and
it changes you
countries
as you
and
get older.
nations and-
You
yeah.
see it differently. I definitely do now.
Oh,
When
yeah.
I was 17 years old, I
Big time.
was worried about just trying to find a place.
Yeah. Well, especially when you see the footage now, you look at it differently too.
Yeah,
You remember the day you saw it, and then you remember it now, and you're like, or you watch it now, and you're like, so crazy.
Yeah, just it's surreal. It's kind
It's
and like I
very
said,
surreal.
we're bringing up memories that are engraved in us from 18 years ago. Imagine when this is 40
Yeah.
years ago, and then
I
60
can't
years
remember
ago.
what I ate last week, but this shit'll never.
No, it'll never
leave my memory.
Any of us.
Ever.
I don't think.
Yeah.
Like I could tell you from when I woke up to about almost to the
Yeah,
end of
you
the
can
day.
account the whole day.
It was a long day.
I can't
too.
do that many days in my life.
It was a
No.
long day. Yeah.
I remember having long days, but I remember that one, like I said, was sobering. It was
It was
it was
just-
awakening.
Yeah.
I didn't know where Afghanistan was. I couldn't put it
Nope.
on a map.
Nope.
I didn't know what Al Qaeda was.
Didn't know
I
what
didn't
a terrorist.
terrorism.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
like-
that's kind of the thing too. Is terrorist wasn't. Really
wasn't
a
as-
thing until 9/11.
and then
Yeah, you didn't even realize it was a terror attack. You just thought a plane hit a building. You're like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All these
What the
people
hell
dying.
happened?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
and then it happened
And then,
again. It's
yeah,
like-
boom. Then another one. You're like, what
That's
the
when
fuck?
it really clicked for me. Is when I saw the second one. I'm like, wait a minute. What
yeah.
the hell
Well, we
is
were all
going
tuning in
on?
because at that point in
Yeah.
time, like
You
the
didn't
TV's,
watch
the
the
news.
first one happen. No, you just saw it smoking and like.
Well,
they
you'd see
showed
like cameras and
replays
stuff
of
like
it
that.
and
Like,
stuff,
you're like,
but,
whoa, what the fuck
yeah.
just happened? Like, whoa, like that's crazy.
Yeah.
And then then you
Then
start
you
hearing about the
see the
hijackings, and then you
second
see the second. You actually, I think everybody watched that second airplane come in.
I did.
I did. I was watching the news at that point in time. It was for us. It was 6 a.m. where I was getting ready for school,
Getting ready for school. Yeah.
and watched the second one happen, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, what's going on? Like, we're under attack. Like that's what they said. We're under this is a terrorist attack. We're under attack. That's what it was like. We're under attack.
That was the headlines too. America under attack.
Yeah.
Yeah. America under attack.
And then
I
the
remember.
Pentagon, you're like, what the fuck? Like, what's going
And,
on?
and
Like,
still, you didn't understand it. You're like,
No,
you're
I
under
didn't- I
attack.
didn't
What
even
the
know
fuck does
hell
that
the
mean?
Pentagon
Yeah.
was back then.
What's that
I didn't know
mean?
what the Pentagon was.
yeah. Well, I mean, I kind of knew what the Pentagon because I
didn't.
always followed. I've been really like
You
just
were
looking.
into
I used to have the
military stuff,
the encyclopedias,
Yeah.
and going through them and reading about our my grandpa used to watch war movies, like
Yeah.
black and white war movies, and I'd sit there and watch them with it. We didn't have color. Like we had VHS players. You know what I mean? Like that's how old we're talking. That
Fucking VHS.
Bro,
man.
we had VHS, black and white, and we'd watch that. And like my reading time was encyclopedias. Like I'd go through like the war pages and like look at. So I always kind of had an idea,
Yeah.
but
I did the same thing at my grandma's house, but I was always drawn to animals. I was looking
yeah,
up snakes.
which is
and-
crazy, huh?
yeah,
It's just we're talking about things that are now obsolete. If you go to,
Oh
I,
yeah. My kid wouldn't know what the hell an encyclopedia is.
I'll
Yeah.
go to
Or
Rage
if
K.
you
Who's
just-
Rage K. I'll go to him and be like, hey, do you know what encyclopedia is? I bet he'd be like, what's an encyclopedia? You know, he wouldn't know. He's 19 years old.
Yeah.
He's not gonna know what that is. Like, he was 1 when it happened.
Yeah.
And he's a young man right now.
Yeah, he probably doesn't even remember nothing like that.
Well,
No, there's no way. There's no way he can remember. He's 1 years old. I have a 1-year-old at home, and she if something happened right now, she wouldn't know the difference. She
Yeah.
grew up hearing the stories about it,
And
but
that's
never.
it too. That's a generational split. We have everybody that was alive at that point in time, or everybody that was alive and will remember it. And
Well,
then everybody.
we
after.
we wanted to go to war. Like, I remember our generation wanted to go to war. Now a lot of the kids coming up, some of them have purpose to serve because their older brothers and sisters and some of their mothers and fathers served.
Yes. Yeah.
But a lot of them looking for free schooling, tuition, don't know what to do with their lives, no jobs. But everybody else went, so we'll go. So like it kickstarted this like voluntary service. But back for us, it was like, I remember talking to people who were 5 or 6 years older than me. I worked with in law enforcement. And they're just like, I wanted to go to war, and they'd go into like join the Marine Corps. Like, I want to kill people. I want to go kill them. I want payback. And they were going into recruiting stations. Like, I want mine now. Like, they
Do
were
you
waiting.
see how powerful that is, though?
Yeah.
Like if this was some sort of false flag conspiracy theory thing,
It
look
worked.
how powerful that
Yeah.
emotion is.
Well, like I said,
it's
it
like,
put
I
fear in
wanna
us.
go
They were older.
kill
They
these
understood.
people, and
They were
it's
like 15, 16 years old when it happened.
Yeah.
And they're like, I want to join the Marine Corps. And they're like, why do you want to join the Marine Corps, son? Like, I want to kill him.
fucking kill people.
I want to
yeah.
kill him. I want payback.
I want revenge.
Yeah, because it still hurts.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think. Because they used to tell me stories like, I was a Marine. I was like, yeah, it's crazy. Like, yeah, I was in Iraq and I was in Afghanistan. And I did multiple tours and I was there to kill people.
Yeah.
It's like, holy shit, dude, that's crazy. But they wanted payback for what happened to us because we were attacked. Whether it was by now, we're looking at it like, was it foreign? Was
Yeah.
it domestic?
Yeah.
Regardless, we were attacked, and that's what we all believed. Like I said, if we asked questions, if we asked any questions about being you were
shut
unpatriotic.
down.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
You
it-
were ridiculed immediately.
Yep, you were nuts.
Yeah.
You were crazy. You were like conspiracy theorist now. When you hear it, like everybody's like, "Oh, okay,
Kind
you
of
know,
laughs
that's
it off. Yeah. It's
yeah, it's
kind
like,
of
all right, that's what
mainstream
you-
to be a conspiracy theorist
yeah."
now.
At least
Back
to
then-
question your government because
Yeah.
now
because we
it's
see the
okay. Yeah,
fucked
but
up
back
shit they
then,
do.
I remember back then, like if I heard somebody was anti-American, I'd be like, "Who the fuck's wrong with you?"
Yeah.
Somebody kneeling for the national anthem, somebody
Yeah,
not
oh
standing
my
for the
God,
pledge.
dude.
That dude would get chin checked.
Dude.
Like,
Like, yeah.
Could you
Colin
imagine that?
Kaepernick back in 2005 would have pulled that shit.
he would have
He
got
would have
beat
got
to death.
murdered on
Yeah.
that fucking field.
Literally,
The fans probably would have went out on that field and just annihilated.
Yeah,
that
like,
guy. Yeah.
everybody like
It was
'cause
a savagery. Like
it was different than
it
back
was-
then.
yeah.
Because now conspiracy theories just like, oh, okay, you believe in different stuff. Back then it was like, you're anti-America, you're anti-family, like you're anti what we stand for, you're anti-God and anti
Yeah, it was-
you were the worst piece of scum on this earth.
But look how powerful that is.
Yeah, it's
That's
like
just,
I said, it
that's
changed.
One of the things I look at. It's just like, look
I'm
at
surprised-
all the emotion that
Yeah,
people got over that.
I mean, it was for real. It was a for real
Yeah.
thing. Like we said, talking about it now when we first started talking, I started to get goosebumps because it's
because it's real.
it's real, yeah, it was real
It
to us.
happened.
yeah, it was. We
fucking
were alive when
happened.
it happened.
Yeah, and it went from like everybody rallying together and being true Americans to like,
Now it's
Now
like
everybody
divided.
fucking-
So distraught.
dude,
Well, we've
It's
seen
crazy.
it over the years. I mean,
It's
that's our
outrage
young
culture.
adult,
It's-
our young adult culture till now. I mean, you had the, I don't like throwing names at the best, but when Obama came in, there was the first divide. If you don't vote for him, he's a racist. You're a racist, and this and that. And everybody's like, okay, like,
Yeah.
don't worry, we'll
How many
vote
people
for him. yeah.
voted for Obama just because he was the
Yeah.
first black guy?
Yeah,
It's
and,
like,
and I
that's-
remember talking to people about it. I'm like, okay, like, all right, like everybody's kind of getting
it's like,
mad if you
but
voted
what is he
somewhere
talking
else.
about? Like, what's his policies?
Yeah,
And-
like,
but
they
he
didn't
had
know. They
good
just-
shit to go on that
Mhm.
too at first. You know?
So that was the first divide, and then it just got worse
Yeah.
and worse and worse
keep
and
evolving.
worse. And now today, what we have is a true divide. I mean,
people don't fucking talk to each other anymore.
No.
Like, there's
And some
people
of it's
that could
not
have been
just-
best friends, and then just because of some belief, they
yeah,
like,
you didn't
I'm-
vote for him. Yeah, they
I'm
stopped. But
done.
now it's an extreme, like Trump. Like if you voted for Trump, people fucking hate you. Like
Yeah.
back then, it was just like we're not being friends anymore because we still were open for
it's
conversation.
like people being attacked because they
Yeah,
like
now
Trump.
people are getting assaulted. I can't imagine where it happened in another 10 years. Like, the
Yeah.
world is changing for sure.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's interesting. It's us versus you versus us. But back then, when that happened, it was all of us versus everybody else.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
like,
that was a uniting.
everybody stood up together. And,
crazy.
but the same thing happened in Pearl Harbor. Once Pearl Harbor happened, America's like, it's fucking time. Let's go. And, like, with everybody. Matter of fact, there's stories about young men who tried joining the military during World War II weren't accepted because of a certain reason would go home and kill themselves.
because of the shame.
Fuck,
Mhm.
that's
Yeah,
sucks,
like
man.
there were people who were committing suicide back at that time because they wanted to serve their country.
I've never heard that.
Yeah,
That's fucking
it's
crazy.
in every look it up. Like
Well, it's you know, it kind of it's ironic, but like the Japanese culture, you know,
Yeah.
the shame that you can
Yeah,
bring
they-
to your
they feel
family
shame
because
and
you couldn't do
they-
what you
they wanted to
thought was
serve.
the right thing to do.
young men would serve. They lie about their age. They go from recruiter to recruiter to recruiter. Like it got to the point where
Man.
people started killing themselves because they couldn't join. Like that's how extreme when we were attacked. Because before that we were neutral. Everybody was on the fence. Only a small part of the population, like 7%, wanted to go to war. They didn't want to go to war with Japan. They wanted to go help our Great Britain.
They wanted prosperity. And
Well, I mean, at this point in time, by the time we joined the war, Germany had already beat the fuck out of Europe.
kicking everybody's
Yeah,
ass already,
they were already in Africa. They were beating the fuck out of the Russians. There's Great Britain by themselves going, hey, can you just give us supplies? Can you help us out? Can you join the war? Like, we're losing. Like, this is it. Germany's not good. And we were like, okay, like, listen, this is your guys' fight. Like, we leave us out of it. You guys are all fighting on a different side of the planet from us. We want to be left alone. And then Japan attacked us because we were allies with Japan. And Japan was beating the fuck out of China. Like, murdering cities. They'd surround cities and kill everybody in them. And we're pushing into Philippines. By the time they attacked us, they were already in the Philippines. They attacked China, Vietnam, Korea. Those battles that we fought, they invaded those countries. It destabilizes the regions because they were colonized by France and Great Britain and Germany, like because they were all traveled. They destabilized those regions, and that's why it was a big push after those wars to get in there and because they were destabilized. China was pushing communism. We didn't want that. We wanted democracy in the area. So that all that was aftermath of World War II. It just reverberated for years and years and years after because all of a sudden Japan went nuts and started murdering everybody, destabilized all these regions, and then we beat them back. All these countries still destabilized. Now China and us were like, hey, we're fighting for these positions, and we're at the same time we were Cold War with Russia because they hated us because we wouldn't help them. At first they were allied with Germany, but we wouldn't help them because they basically won the war by throwing bodies to hold off Germany. They just threw bodies and lost millions. They lost more than civilians and military than any other country. They paid the highest cost for the war, so they hated us. So all these effects were from that. We were a neutral country. We didn't want to fight, but after Pearl Harbor, the whole country stood up and said, "Let's fight. Let's go." The Marines went to the Pacific, and the Army and the Air Corps went over to Germany, and after we won Germany, we put all our stuff into Japan. It was crazy, man. That was a true war.
Yeah.
After 9/11, when that happened, the country stood up again and said, "Let's go." Like, where are we going? Like, we didn't have, there was no true enemy. It was like, we're now fighting terrorism.
Yeah.
You know?
You can't fight an idea.
Yeah, and that's what
It's
we
really
well,
fucking
the
hard.
like the war on drugs. Like, fuck, they've been fighting that for how long? Like, now it's starting to all go away. Like, they're
Yeah, now it's a war on fucking the Second Amendment. That's what it is now.
well, it's a war
Take
on
everybody's
everything now.
fucking
Now
guns
it's a
away.
freedom of speech. It's
Yeah,
Any
everything.
kind of
your first, your
freedom
second,
that
your
they
fifth,
want.
your 14th. I mean, you have all these amendments being kind of like chipped at. But at the same point in time, they're trying to dumb us down. We're the information age. People used to say people are dumb because they're uninformed. Now they're saying they're dumb because they don't care. Like there's no reason not to be uninformed. There's so much out there.
Yeah, the
Well,
Well,
information.
they don't want you to be informed anymore.
Well, nobody does. So we used to think. Imagine this: if there's a time in our parents' lives, they used to think that guy's an idiot because he just doesn't know. Now that guy's just an idiot, you know. But this was our turning point. This is where we stood up and we're like, let's go. Like, let's go to war with whoever it is, and people did. We went. I mean, I don't want to paint us as like the heroes of the story. We're not heroes. What we did, what Americans did to a lot of those people, created terrorists.
Yeah.
You know, because we showed up and we're like, you guys fucking killed us. And they're like, wait, what's America? Where's America? Like, we don't even know. Bah, 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 bah.
Exactly.
We
Yeah.
created hate in our country, and we went over there and started fighting. I mean, that's what it was. Like I said, I wanted to go. I wanted to be infantry.
Yeah.
I wanted to go
Well, the majority
get back.
of the war fighting over there. I mean, I don't know. I was never in it.
A lot of
but,
people
like,
got-
it's
well, I mean,
urban warfare,
again, I
like, it's
talked-
just
we
going
all know
through
people.
cities and
Yeah,
towns,
we all
and it's
know
just
people.
Yeah,
civilian people, just like you're going through houses trying to wipe out the bad guys, and it's hard to.
Well, the bad guys too.
discern
They were just. So I don't know if you guys
they're
know a lot
just-
about the Quran, but basically, if a Muslim country gets invaded, your job as another Muslim is to go and fight the force. You can't let when Muslims take over an area. Your job is to make sure they stay there. So it's not for any other reason that it's basically one big united religion.
Mhm.
So if a place starts getting pushed back, they don't let that come out of there. And back then, it was the Christians and Muslims lived together. It wasn't, you know, you didn't. If a guy was Muslim, you knew he looked different, but you didn't really care.
Yeah.
Now it's a little different, but a lot of just uphold the call. Like if Christians got pushed off the map, and it's like if Christian in the Bible says that if Christians get pushed back, you have to go and fight to make sure that they can stay there. Well, a Christian-based country invaded a Muslim-based country. A lot of those guys who went to fight just to get an invading force out of there.
Yeah.
So it's like we were fighting
Well, they were
people
defending
from
their homeland. They thought, you know.
well,
Yeah, we would do
so
the
few-
same thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, now we would.
Yeah,
but
if some foreigner was going through my neighborhoods, fuck yeah, I'd be running.
well, not
to
even your
fucking
neighborhoods. Let's say
guerrilla
Canada
warfare.
got invaded by China for some reason,
Yeah.
and people like were calling up arms. Anybody's want to show up and help us fight China, like get them out of here.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
it'd be like
I'm gonna let the Chinese walk through my streets to get up to Canada. and
Yeah,
fuck
like,
with them?
people
Like,
started
no.
fighting them, so-
Yeah.
Yeah,
like,
'cause
a lot
what's
of the
next?
times
They're
they were
definitely gonna
surprised.
Come down, right?
yeah. So like there's stories of U.S. Marines and Army men. They would find like passports on people who were fighting them from like all different the whole Middle East. They're like, why are you guys here? And it's like you're here.
Yeah, yeah.
You're like that's why we're
Why
here.
are you guys here?
Yeah, you guys are at the time. You guys are pushing into Iraq. Why are you guys here?
Yeah.
Like that was the like.
We
You
took
guys
this,
just hate us
we
like
took this
Fallujah.
little thing that was supposed to be, we're gonna fuck up these guys that
We're gonna
did
go
this
into
attack to us,
Afghanistan and
it
deal with
just-
this.
It just spread.
Yeah, so
because it's a resource rich area. It really.
Well, nobody
is.
else could go there. Nobody else has not won. We still haven't won, and we've been there for 18 years. But this has all been pushed off, and I'd like to actually maybe do an episode on that too, because there's a lot of information out there that this is one of my specialties, and I know,
Yeah.
like
you
this
seem
is
very
yeah,
knowledgeable in it,
I'm very passionate about that. But it all stems from one thing. It all stems from this. So you actually have information you were saying from
kind of like the after effects.
the after
right?
effects.
Yeah,
right?
so like after the buildings came down, all the workers and everybody involved, even years later, even now, are becoming super sick, cancers, lymph node fucking problems, respiratory problems, all kinds of crazy shit that they've been dealing with that they haven't seen before.
Really bad terminal illness.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
well,
they are
from-
killing people.
Yeah,
Like Jon Stewart, it just did a thing because it was all over Facebook
Mhm.
about how he's fighting
He's
for these
fighting.
people.
Yeah, he's
Mhm.
going to these court hearings and stuff and trying to get because
The
all these
federal
people
court
want
hearings.
is for Medicare to kick in and take care
yeah,
of their,
for them
their
to be
medical
taken
bills.
care of. Yeah,
Yeah,
for,
that's all they're asking for. They're not asking for handouts. They're not asking for reparations. They just want it's like, hey, we were first responders during
Is it
this
just
crisis.
first responders, or is it anybody there?
No,
at the time?
it's multiple people.
Yeah,
it's up to
it's-
40,000 people,
Yeah, anybody that was involved in
and
9/11
anybody
that
within the
was-
blocks of 9/11.
Huh. What? Huh. Because I remember you hearing about people getting sick and dying from the dust and
Mhm.
like all this, but I think there's more in it. Like
Yeah,
there had to have been because dust. I mean, there's been dust,
dust is
everywhere.
bad, but yeah, you breathe
You
dust
don't
one day
hear
and it
people
gets you
dying of it.
cancer
Yeah, people
18
dying.
years later.
Firefighters
like,
dying
what the
from
hell
it.
is that?
One of my old best friends from Seattle, that I used my childhood best friend. His uncle passed away from cancer that was associated, or lung issues that was associated from when the towers fell because he was there.
Wow.
But it's also, it's just crazy. What else? What else did you pull up?
So like, what else is in the dust? That's
Yeah.
the question.
Well, yeah, that's
Well-
just it. It's one exposure, and then nearly 20 years later, you're getting cancer from it.
Everybody's dying
That's-
from it for the whole
what
20
the
years.
Fuck.
What? They said they found a lot of well, it's not. I don't want to say tannerite, but it's not tannerite. Thermite all over the place.
Yeah.
What happens if that stuff gets in your lungs?
I'm sure it's not good. It can't be good.
Maybe
It's
because
aluminum powder and iron oxide.
I imagine that stuff.
So,
Well,
yeah.
iron.
Iron oxide is rust.
Uh-huh.
That's where the oxygen comes from in the chemical reaction is the iron oxide. So the
I wonder if that
iron
bonds,
oxide-
like if there's chemicals in that would bond to your lungs, and especially if it's burning, because remember it's
Oh,
burning.
it's burning. Yeah, this
If that-
adds a whole nother element of the chemical reaction, and then it's burning all the other substances that are in the air and whatever it's on sitting on top of and all that other stuff. Yeah. So, but every dust sample that was analyzed from 9/11 has this micro or nanothermite in it. Yeah, every dust sample. So that means it was prevalent. It was there.
Okay, well that's interesting. What about what else? Rooster? You said you looked some stuff up.
I was trying to figure out like symptoms from thermite poisoning.
Here, I'll look that up.
Yeah, yeah.
What do
Okay,
you-
so it was like what 1.8 million tons that fell from the towers, and there's still 1,000 bodies they still have not found. It took 9 months to clean that all up, and it's been 18 years, and there's still thousands of bodies missing, over 1,000.
thermite poisoning.
Check the symptoms. Do like indigestion or breathing it.
There was other weird correlations with that day too. It's like all the big wigs that normally would have gone that day. Like something happened, they were like, nah, you know, we're not going in today. Like 300 some executives didn't go up to their normal meeting that they would have that day for some reason.
And there's reports that people got told not to take planes that morning, like high end like fucking officials.
Really?
Yep.
Is that? Do you have it? What? Because you look some stuff up. I'm just curious. Like what else?
Oh,
you
mine
looked
was
up?
talking about like the poisonings and them getting all sick and fucking.
All the stuff that they're dealing with now, the aftermath.
Yeah,
of
and all the
cleanup
bodies still
crew.
missing. 18
Yeah.
years later and still no fucking bodies. 1,000 bodies.
Just from what I looked up, it says like ignition of it. Like once that stuff gets going, it's hard to stop.
Yeah.
It's been used for civilian factor, but usually mainly in like buildings and like destruction, and military uses it for a variety of different things.
That was the intended purpose. Actually, was for artillery during World War I or II. I don't remember when it was invented, but they would put it on like all the, you know, they had the mechanical gears that would change the angle for your, you know, the big guns and stuff. So they'd set that thermite charge right on top of all those gears and stuff. So then that artillery is just bunk. It's just sit there, can't move it, can't change the angle. It's useless. You know.
That's fucking
You have
funny.
this several thousand-pound piece of artillery that just you have to leave in the field now. That, you know.
Yeah, so that way
This
nobody else can
little-
use. Yeah,
this
just
little
put it in.
half-ounce fucking package of thermite just totally ruined this you know, back then probably $40,000, $50,000, $100,000 piece of equipment.
Yeah, there's nothing.
That's weird that
that I
they
can
don't have
find.
anything.
But I mean, that'd be an interesting topic to try to find.
That's
on, like,
honestly probably
well,
not really
you
a
probably know
major
it's-
concern.
welding.
Yeah.
I mean, you're burning metals.
Oh, there's countless toxic fumes I can't even imagine on everything that I've been exposed to over the years and
So
people that are
what
in that trade.
is there any of those sound like there's a correlation between the two? Like
What's
from
that,
welding,
cancers? Oh yeah, absolutely.
welding, and what people are
Pretty
experiencing
much
now.
everything that I touched as far as consumables, whether it was material or welding supplies or whatever, it had that. This has a
What's
state of
happening to those people
No,
in-
no, it just had that label. This is from the state of California.
Oh,
that
state of
product
California that may cause
causes
cancer,
blah,
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 blah.
blah, yeah.
But did you ever hear any stories of people getting super sick or like having cancers from welding
Just from
or?
certain processes, but like they were usually very acute. So like it was like this happened, you had this exact, you know, okay, so for instance, when you weld on stainless steel, one of the byproducts that gets vented off from welding stainless steel is hexavalent chromium. If you breathe hexavalent chromium, you can die. Like it's extremely toxic. So when you're welding with stainless steel, you have to be very aware of ventilation.
Well,
So you have to
thermite
keep that stuff
in
out.
large amounts, I imagine, is going to be welding still together.
Oh,
Right,
yeah. Well,
like
it's
it'll burn
it's
it
an
and mold
exothermic
it.
reaction. So yeah, it's these two things. You can't even start it with normal fire. You have to stick a piece of phosphorus in there, or what's the name? There's another sodium, potassium, and a couple of other flammable metals that'll start with a torch. But once that metal starts going, that will start the thermite because it's so hard to get the burning started. But once it's going, it's nearly impossible to put out. But it's an exothermic reaction, so it's taking all this, you know, material and it's producing shitloads of heat, and that's where most of the reaction's coming from. So it's just putting off tons of heat. That's why it was used to melt metal. So I don't know if it's really welding anything together, but it's fucking melting shit.
Yeah, have you ever welded anything?
Yeah, I welded.
Have you gotten sick from welding?
No, because it's it'll usually open air or you know your mask and you're over here. Like
Yeah.
I've done TIG welding and stuff like that, but
Dude, it sucks.
I mean I've also done you know like I've used blow torches to cut metal and stuff like that. I used to do like little projects. My grandpa grew up welding.
Yeah, and I remember my first time I was like, what the fuck? And
Yeah,
then I
you
was
just
like,
smell the odors and like
Oh,
the,
yeah.
they like the smoke is a different color smoke. You're like
Yeah, it
that's
smells like
that's a
wet
chemical
pennies.
reaction. Yeah, like
I
that's,
got told to drink milk for some reason. I don't know
So
if you know anything
if-
about that,
yeah.
but they were like, hey, go drink some milk real quick, and I'm like, what the fuck?
What were you welding on?
I fucking don't remember. I was building gates. So
Okay, so
some fucking-
most likely what that milk thing is when you weld on galvanized
Oh, it was, yeah, that's
materials.
what it was.
The galvanizing is a zinc coating. When you combust zinc, it's very toxic to humans to breathe. So milk will actually, I don't know what the process is inside the body that happens, but it pulls all the zinc out of your body.
Isn't that fucking weird, right?
Flushes it out. Yeah.
yeah, that is. I wonder if there was lead in it.
What, in the dust?
In the
I
buildings
have
and
no
stuff.
doubt.
So
yeah.
lead
Lead's
lead
pretty
kills
toxic.
people.
Yeah,
lead
well,
never
look how
leaves your
long-
body.
Look how long ago those were built.
Yeah, so lead actually is something people look at that you have to be careful because lead, if it gets in you, you don't know how long it's going to stay in you. You don't know when the effects are going to happen, but lead kills you.
Yeah.
Like lead's serious stuff.
It's
Like that's what
toxic as fuck.
something that's like super scary. Is, like once you get lead poisoning or lead related injuries, like it's
You're pretty fucked.
yeah, there's not a lot they can do about it because it's hard to detect. So like, I wonder if there's lead in the area too. Because if you're trying to kill as many people as you can,
You want something slow.
yeah, well you want you know something fast and harsh, and then something that will do the job.
Right.
You know, like the residual, I
Well,
guess.
So if you're talking like the conspiracy of it, then it was set back fucking how long? Like if they were talking about using lead in the buildings.
Yeah, I mean, they were built what in the 80s?
Probably
buildings?
70s. I
What
think
the
70s.
World Trade? The
I'm
World,
not sure on that one actually.
yeah, maybe it was they started in the 70s, finished in the 80s. I just remember people telling me, but they remember them going up because they were supposed to be a big deal all of a sudden. You know, they were part of the New York skyline for so long.
Two tallest towers for fucking ever.
Yeah, until the Sears Tower, or now the Sears Tower is the tallest in America, or something like that.
God damn.
What?
North Tower began in August of '68, and South Tower began in '69. So yeah, there's most definitely lead paint in them fucking buildings.
Well, back then they didn't they didn't know the effects, but they used to put lead paint on toys.
On everything.
On
yeah.
everything.
On everything, yeah.
Well, because it
You
was
know,
damn good paint.
well, even our gasoline, it was leaded. It was leaded gasoline.
There's a
And then
conspiracy behind that as well.
Oh well, good. That's good to know because we get to have
Fucking
Ellen today.
Jesus. Everything's
Yeah,
a conspiracy.
So
Well,
they took
everything-
the lead out of fuel because there was a carburetor that was developed that it could, with leaded fuel, you could get 200 miles per gallon. So they took the lead out and it got rid of the carburetor.
Well, a lot of the process too. They said lead was seeping out of
Oh, I'm sure it
and
was.
going
Can you
into our
imagine
water
burning
streams.
lead and
Yeah,
then just
like
it's in our
letting-
air
yeah,
from
well,
like
not just in our air.
just-
So what happened is it would get in the water, and when the cars would run, and after combustion, everything they'd put water and they'd drain into our systems and get now you have lead. Everybody's getting lead poisoning, so they had to shift to an unleaded
Fucking
product.
crazy.
But that's how ridiculous some conspiracies can be. It's like, no, we just did a good thing because we found out that it was fucking toxic.
Well, somebody
and we got rid of it.
I talked to an
Yeah.
engineer once who was a teacher, and he says never invent something that's going to mess with money.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you do, you'll never get it out. They'll try to buy it from you, and then they'll kill you.
Yeah.
He's like, this was a teacher, like, when I was in, like, junior high school. He's like, because he's like, I've come up with some things that I put in my own vehicle that increase efficiency of this and this. And he's like, it's usually
Those
fuel-based
technologies
products.
exist.
Yeah, well, and this was, again, 20 years ago. But he's like,
'Cause they're pretty
he's like,
basic.
but don't ever tell anybody. He goes, because as soon as you do, because back then, and he wasn't like a big conspiracy guy. He's really well-rounded. He's like, because you'll disappear. He's like, you don't understand that money changes people. Money changes things. He goes, don't ever get involved in money.
Yep.
I was like, wow, if it scares you, I don't know what to think about. Like, because you seem to know your stuff. You know, you respect.
And that's very true. And you know that just as an adult human in our society, you know that money is like the number one contributing factor to people doing fucked up shit. So
Well, I don't want to say this, but the Clintons.
right, yeah. So look at all the weirdness with money
Oh,
around
fuck.
this incident. You know,
Yeah.
the guy insuring the towers and then suing
Well, look
afterwards.
how-
and
so
Like
look
all
how-
the money missing from the Pentagon.
the
Yeah.
Pentagon, yeah.
Well, and where
It's
did it
just
go?
the
So
money.
like, all these fucks are so rich.
And
They have
you'll
so
never
much
know.
money.
Well,
Yeah,
it's black projects they didn't want
you don't
anybody to
get
fucking know
rich
about.
being
Yeah.
president. You just live
Yeah.
wealthy. You don't
Yeah.
become a millionaire and buy $1 million home.
Blackwater.
Well, Obama when he was inaugurated, his
I guess he
net
just bought a
worth
house,
was
by the
like-
way, a big fucking house
Yeah.
on the ocean side. And this was
Shocker.
to like the people who
Surprise.
don't believe in global warming.
Yeah.
They go, why
Oh,
would
why would you
why
buy
would you
oceanfront
oceanfront
property?
property
Yeah,
if global warming was your
exactly.
biggest fear? But again, I mean, we're an hour into this.
And we still haven't even touched on conspiracies yet.
Yeah.
Not really.
Well, let's hear them. Let's get there. Let's
Well, where do you want to start?
what is the most odd?
That it's an inside job. I think that's the
The-
number
the
one
most
conspiracy, that
odd-
the American government would do that to its own people just to initiate
Lizard
war.
people.
I mean, that's the most fucked up one. Is that America?
Yeah,
That's the
that's
one
the
that
one
honestly
that-
that's the one that makes the most sense to me. That's not as that
See,
far
honestly,
out there, and that has the right
That
motivation.
one almost
Yeah.
doesn't seem like a conspiracy. It almost seems like it could be a reality.
Exactly. That's what's so fucking scary. About
Because
it.
all the facts and everything.
Well, again,
doesn't
what we,
add up.
we talked about in the
Which
beginning
is
of the
things
episode,
that we've
which
seen
yeah,
Yeah.
our government do.
No, but the oddest one I've heard on 9/11 is that they used laser weapons on the towers, and that's why all those people were jumping out of the fucking building. That's
Just
the
'cause the
oddest one
heat?
I've heard. Yeah, that's why it melted. That's why they couldn't get to the elevators. They couldn't go down. All that shit. It's because they.
well,
used
the
laser
building
weapons.
was on fire at the time.
Yeah. But I mean,
Like
that's the oddest one I've heard.
Yeah.
Well, back then I don't think lasers were that big of a. I mean, we were kind of blowing everybody up with big kabooms.
Yeah.
But
you asked for the oddest.
yeah, no, that is definitely out there.
I'll give you a nice little one. They say that don't ask me to pronounce his fucking name. One of the terrorist guys that trained his flight training down in Florida was only 20 minutes away, or 20 miles away from where Bush was giving his speech at the fucking school in Florida.
Yeah, but I mean, I know his brother was the governor of Florida at the time, wasn't he?
Bushes.
Reggie Bush, what's fucking not Reggie Bush?
I
but
thought it was Texas, wasn't it Texas?
no, he was no his
Jeb, isn't it Jeb Bush?
Jeb Bush, yeah,
Pretty
Jeb
sure
Bush
it
was
Texas.
Jeb Bush was in Texas.
I'm pretty sure.
I don't
Whole
know.
fucking family's from Texas.
I know they're from Texas, but once you start becoming a senator and you starting to get into politics, I mean, you go all over the place.
You never know.
Or you
But
get
I'm just
second
saying, come on.
citizenship
like-
in Israel.
How coincidence is that you're only 20 fucking miles away from one
Yeah,
of
but,
these guys?
I mean,
the guys
Florida.
you support. Yes, Florida's
that's
pretty
like
fucking big.
California. You know what I mean?
Fuck.
It's always been kind of like that. It's just a out there type place.
Yeah.
Everything bad happens.
Yeah,
in
usually fucked up stuff. It's like, okay, somebody got outraged and pissed off in California, and then somebody took some weird drug and ate something that they shouldn't have in
Like a
Florida.
face.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a face or an alligator
They shouldn't be
or
eating this. Well, what is that? Is are the big ones you've heard?
No, there's tons. Like the planes
Oh,
weren't
there's-
real.
Yeah, there was
the
the
fucking.
CGI plane.
Yeah,
All right, well,
CGI
maybe let's
planes.
do this. Let's turn this into a 2 special episode. Let's meet again this weekend, and we'll talk about like
all the
because now
conspiracies
we've
don't
touched
make
in the
sense.
facts, we've touched in the questions, and we've touched into like the post stuff. Maybe on the next one we actually talk about like where it starts getting like the fucketry starts happening, and that could be like the plane CGI plane stuff. That could be the planes weren't actually there. That could be like things don't make sense. It could have been rockets and like
Yeah,
'cause
but like
all
how
the-
did the
the
planes
Pentagon,
cut through the
yeah.
building?
Yeah,
When
how-
fucking.
the explosions. Maybe we could even attach a video to this too, like a clip
Yeah.
where people can actually see. So we'll turn this into a two podcast special because I've been wanting to do multiple podcasts, but this would be your first one because we can release this one. Will release now, so if you guys are listening, you get this one. The next one will release on 9/11.
Oh fuck!
Yeah.
What day is that this week?
Oh boy, I think it'll be next week, so it'll be Wednesday of next week that we'll look at the second part.
Okay.
Oh fuck!
So we'll do that one maybe on a Sunday, and that'll be our
Gonna
the
get our
second
channel
part, yeah.
shut down.
yeah. That's the one that
You're
you
gonna
guys
be
will never
like-
get to hear.
Oh fuck!
But
yeah,
and again, we'll touch it with we'll be sincere. We'll be we'll understand that people have lost people during it, but at the same point in time, this is what's being said, and I think
yeah.
look into it yourself, and if you want to add stuff, you can add stuff. But we can, with the three of us, we can jump into like the stuff that really, because I've even heard stuff.
Just the far.
And I'll actually watch some of the videos.
I don't
that
think
they have
I
on
don't
it.
think you could have been alive at that time and lived now and not have heard something.
Right.
You know?
Well, I mean, back then, the first 10 years of it, nothing. You would hear
yeah.
everybody, again, the nationalist part of it. But now, when you look at it, like, there's, again, they're showing videos like that one where the plane's, like, phasing through the building and stuff like this.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
wait a minute,
yeah.
what? And then, well, the History Channel's a big part of that. The History Channel, they've fucking taken a weird turn when it comes to, like, factual history
Yeah.
and stuff they're willing to show. Like, they're just trying to get views. Like,
Just
just,
another conspiracy.
yeah.
No, seriously, because like with all the ancient aliens and stuff that
Did they
History
do
Channel
Oh,
that?
I
Yeah.
does,
fucking love
you
that
know.
show.
Oh, it's an incredible show, but like that's the conspiracy is that the History Channel is it's media. It's a function of this narrative, so they show you these things to get you desensitized or
Just kind of makes everything seem crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, because I mean, if you've watched the History Channel back when we were younger, dope shows. Dope
Oh yeah,
things.
but it was all fact.
Yeah.
Fact, fucking fact.
I almost feel like they turned
History
into
Channel.
MTV.
Now it's like,
Oh,
yeah, it
bro.
is. It's like reality TV.
Yeah,
it's
like
weird.
just the whole, like,
Yeah,
Alex
how can
Jones is the
ancient
worst day,
aliens be the History Channel? Like I get it because it's about like archaeology and stuff, and they just do these weird correlations. But
What is that? Which one?
ancient
Oh.
aliens, yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It's all crazy. So in this one here, we'll do another one, and that one we'll talk about all that kind of crazy stuff, and then I don't know. We'll go from there. We'll see if that leads into
Oh,
anything
fuck.
else. But that gives us a segue to our next one.
Oh man.
If you guys have any questions or concerns, smart remarks, or even if you feel like
Share your
touching,
experience from that day if you remember
Absolutely.
it.
Oh,
That would
fuck.
be awesome.
yeah,
That's gonna be chilling to read somebody share something like
Yeah.
that.
like somebody was there. Like for instance, a lot of people hate Donald Trump,
Yeah,
but he was there. by the
Somebody
way.
was there. Oh, dude, I don't know if I could read that.
Yeah,
It's
well, I
gonna be-
mean, it's
I know somebody that was there personally. That
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very sobering topic, but
It's
we-
chilling.
yeah, it's kind of crazy. We want to hear your side of it too, though. Like, if this is something you believe we shouldn't even touch on, I want to hear what you really think. I don't want you to be like, you guys are not doing a very good job. I'd be like, listen, motherfuckers, like,
We're
this is-
trying.
yeah, we want to know. We want to know what you think and how you feel about it. Do you still feel that it's unpatriotic to talk about it, or do you feel like this is something that should be talked about? If it not, then when?
Yeah, and what's a crazy conspiracy that you fucking heard?
Yeah, like what's the things that you heard? What do you believe? Do you believe it was inside
Do you
or
believe the
outside?
narrative?
Yeah, like this was a defining moment in our lives for us. And we're a little, again, you might be younger, you might be older. I actually know people listening to this who are younger. This might be the first time they've ever heard about it.
Yeah, especially in detail.
Yeah, like actual, like, because we have the time
reports,
breakdown,
yeah.
your part, like, maybe those people are super patriotic. They're thinking right now, like, what the fuck? Like, why this doesn't make sense? So it
How
might,
come I've never fucking heard this before?
yeah. It's kind of crazy to
That's
think
just
there's
it,
people out there that,
Well, that's usually how it starts. It's what gets people asking questions is the people that's like, what?
yeah, well,
Never
even,
heard that
It,
before.
it just goes to show because we all have kids, and how many times have you mentioned something that you know for fact to your kids, and your kids may be older or younger, and they're like, I've never heard that before, and you're like, what? They don't tell you this stuff in school? You're like, what the hell is going on?
yeah, because now they teach some weird fucking
I
dancing stuff. in
dude, I
school.
fucking know.
I don't know. I just turn. It seems like with Common Core teaching all these kids the same thing, they have a lot more time for dumb things to teach. Because some of the things I keep getting told they're teaching kids, I'm just like, why?
Yeah, what's
But-
the purpose?
And even the people I know who are teaching in them are kind of like, no, this is why. It's kind of cool. It's kind of fun. It's like, but that's
Yeah, but
not
we're
that's
not
not what
here-
I.
yeah.
That's yeah. Like it should be a teaching concept, not
Yeah,
a.
we're here for knowledge, not for cool and fun.
Yeah, well, it's like, but like from an outsider who doesn't have to like, I don't want to say I'm not getting brainwashed by that stuff and some of the stuff they're talking about. I'm like, this is fucking weird. Like we shouldn't be working our kids with this. We should be actually teaching them what they need. If they feel they need kids need more exercise, because it's all about like it's fucking weird dancing shit. Like we're putting
Yeah, there's
things in a pot and we're
purple
throwing this pot and we're
stew
doing
and-
I'm
it's
like, what
just-
the fuck is this? And they're like, go ask these people about it. They heard about it too. And I'm starting to talk to people. And I was like, yeah, we love that stuff. Like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
like I'd be standing there, and be like, no.
Yeah, it's like, you
No,
know what
this-
happened when we needed to get active or we weren't paying attention in school?
We went
It's
outside
like,
and played, man. I remember playing
yeah.
tetherball. I remember climbing big ass fucking monkey bars. And nowadays, like that stuff's so regulated. Like,
Dude, oh my god, playing monkey bars.
Yeah,
Having
like, I remember
monkey,
falling
like,
off that
fucking
stuff.
kicking each other and shit, hanging
They
from
kick
those
you,
motherfuckers,
kick each
dude.
other. You
So
fall,
cool.
you eat shit, you get back up, you
You're like,
wait
oh,
your
fuck.
turn again.
Yeah.
I remember
hell yeah.
doing stuff like that, but nowadays, like they can't even pretend to play guns on.
I know it's like assault, and you're fucking being charged, and
Yeah,
cops
kids,
are coming to your
kids being,
house and
yeah,
shit. Fucking nuts.
kids are being charged nowadays for like
fake
kind of stuff.
gun signs.
like one guy.
with their
I remember a
fingers.
story I heard, and this is a kid, somebody's kid who got suspended. He said that he pulled a grenade pin, threw it on a fake box, and sat on the box. He was doing it because he's trying to get rid of the evil. He said he's just playing around. They expelled him.
Dude,
Are you
it's like
serious?
little
They
kids
expelled
don't know. Like we
Yeah,
all
they
played
don't-
the same
it's
games when we were
Man, when I
kids.
was a little kid, I used to play like soldiers with my friends. Like we'd go out there and pretend somebody got shot and like drag them off the like just stupid shit like that. But like it was never with malice. We were
Yeah.
just
No,
playing. We were
playing.
You know, was out there
yeah.
playing like Ninja Turtles and
Play.
Power Rangers, like kicking the
pretend
shit out of
fighting.
each other
Bro,
and shit.
we used to play Smear the Queer. We just called it. we
Dude,
called it
everybody
Unstoppable
played
Football.
that
You
fucking game.
cannot say
They-
that now. If you said smear the queer,
Yeah,
fucking
excuse.
God
I,
damn.
yeah, I don't mean it in a negative way. Like
no,
I don't
but that's
like.
just what it was called. But
Yeah,
no, if you
it-
said that now, or if that's a game
It's
you
basically
tried
like
to
games
play,
of
it's
rugby
like-
where it was just endless, just beat the dog fuck out of each other. Like they don't even allow balls, from what I understand. I have to look into this, but they don't allow balls on playgrounds anymore
What?
Why?
because it instigates violence.
Wow.
And this might be all
Oh my
schools.
god,
other
this
schools
is
that do that.
another episode we're gonna have to fucking
Fucking
cover.
hate
This is
public school, dude.
crazy.
Yeah, you want to go down that fucking
Yeah, we're talking-
the whole authority.
Somebody's gonna be fucking CPS is gonna be showing up at our houses and shit now.
Bro, I mean, like I said, I used to.
It's irritating though because that's the one thing as a parent that it's really scary for me because I don't have control. I don't have control
Zero
over what
control.
my kids are
Now-
seeing, being influenced by, or
True.
hearing when they're
I'll-
not with me.
A lot of the time too. Now it's mandatory, especially at public school. You might want to check yours. It's required they have to learn Spanish.
My son is in 4th grade and he is required to learn Spanish.
How's that sit with you?
It doesn't bother me.
I think it's
because
cool to learn a new
valuable,
language.
But he doesn't even have a mastery of the English language yet.
Yeah.
He's a fucking 4th grader.
Well, I liked in
Yeah,
high school that I got a chance to
agree
learn
with
German.
that.
Ich spiele ein bisschen Deutsch. Like I
Like,
think it's cool, but
I
like.
never had to take a second language until 9th
So
grade.
do you
Yeah,
remember?
that's what I'm saying. It should
hold
be
on.
higher.
high
Do you remember in elementary school they used to have those like there's this like lion. It was VHSs. We'd sit there. It was like 2nd or 3rd grade, and it was it was videos on like Pepe the Lion or something like that, and it'd be like they had songs. I remember these songs. I remember like watching it on the VHS player, and they'd count the fruit in Spanish, and they like do like little games.
I don't remember that.
God,
I
I
don't either.
guarantee if I could find it and I'll look for it, I'll bring it up and you guys will see it and you'll be like,
Oh fuck.
yeah, this stuff happened to us. We probably
We
don't
probably
remember
don't remember it. yeah.
everything, but I do like.
But like I know
Some of the
it's an
stuff
actual
nowadays,
course,
though,
like
like
it's a
watching
class, like he's dedicated class
Oh.
time to learn the language Spanish.
Maybe
yeah,
it's
which
easier when
shouldn't
they're
come
younger,
till
'cause-
later.
And maybe it is, and maybe that's what they're figuring out. But I don't know. It was fucking hard for me in 9th grade. I know that.
Yeah, I
It
took
was really hard for me.
4 years of German.
Oh.
I remember some of it. Like when you used to ask questions, I could recite
Yeah.
some of the stuff and be like, no, that's wrong. It's this.
Mhm.
But
Yeah. But that's more from memory than rather speaking it. Really.
yeah, I mean, I had a German friend and we just talked back and forth. Now I have a Portuguese friend and he teaches me bad words. I don't know. Like,
No, I think being
Bilingual.
multilingual, whatever, that's definitely
Quadlingual,
a
yeah.
valuable skill. But it's just hard when
I wonder how much.
I don't want to put any pressure on anybody. Like if your kid's having a hard time in school, like why should he struggle
to
with
learn some
math
more
when
and
he's
more.
having he shouldn't have to struggle with math.
learn
just
the
'cause he's
basic
having a hard
properties
time
of the things he
learning.
needs to know versus
Yeah.
things that he
Let's
will
get
have
through
to
the
know.
fundamentals first.
Yeah.
My curiosity too is how much of this came around. Like when did these all start being pressed? Like what agenda was being pressed?
Yeah, I know.
When, because like I said, a defining moment in our culture was 9/11. I wonder how much of this was pressed from that. Like if this has all been because we kind of grew up. A lot of the times when they bring stuff new in, they bring it in kindergarten and they grow the kids up with it so that they never knew a difference.
It's a slow boiling frog.
So again, 18 years ago, if you think about it, those are the people who are graduating now, and they're all dumb. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't mean like you're stupid. I just mean like
No,
the
but
stuff
just
that we
like
learned
common
versus you. Like it's
sense,
been
like
coddled or like
life
nurtured in a
skill
different
stuff
way.
things. Like when a kid graduates high school now, like
Well, do you
they
ever
can go to college and that's about it.
Well, do you ever
Like-
read those memes? So, like, there's things out there right now, and it says like, I wish they would teach us life
balance
skills. Like,
yeah.
they should get rid of algebra 2 and teach life skills and this and that. It's like, well, fuck. I remember in 9th grade, I had to take a class where I was a plumber. It taught me how to do my taxes.
Yeah.
It's not like I remember taking. It was a
like
dumb
home
class.
ec.
Home ec, yeah.
Mhm.
I took home ec. Do they not offer that anymore? Like,
As far as I know, they don't.
They don't. As far as
yeah, like I had to draw from a
yeah.
tin can. It's like you're a plumber, you make this much money. Like, fuck yeah, I make $52,000 a year.
Yeah, and you had to budget out your
You
monthly
budget
bills.
out your
You're,
stuff, and
Oh,
like-
oh, you're negative $2. You're gonna have to fix something. You're like, wait,
this
what
is
the
how much groceries cost. This is how much this cost.
Yeah.
Like, cool. And at the end, it was like, how the fuck am I broke?
Yeah.
Like,
It's like,
I didn't even. I don't even
no
have
more
anything
money.
yet. Yeah.
It's a cool class.
I live in a trailer with like a beat up truck that's paid off, and I'm still fucking
Dude,
broke.
they don't teach them how to cook or nothing either anymore.
No.
Yeah, it's crazy to think.
Yeah.
But again, they say they start at the bottom up. We were. I was in this. We were probably 6th, 7th grade. We're all right on that age. So a start over. You think subtract 5 years from us schooling. So that was 2000. In the 2000s, it happened in 2000. So the other kids would be graduating now. A lot of the people who hit in the
Mhm.
because they're all 18.
19, yeah.
Yeah. So it'd be. Then that's the Generation X. What kind of effects? What kind of stuff's been pushed through? What kind of laws have been?
Yeah, we definitely
levied
need to
in the
look into
country?
that one.
Just the Patriot Act in general. That's just such
Well,
a
again, there's people
restriction
who've
on
never been to an airport who don't know what it's like just to walk through it. I remember like
Yeah.
going, like driving up to it, and like it was so relaxed. Back then, the police officers, they wore a hat and like a cap, and they wore like kind of like real easy. Their cop cars were white with the big old brick sirens on top, and police officers were like, it was kind of a cool job. They had like a baton and stuff like that. You go talk to them, and it wasn't like it is now where they're like showing up in big numbers. Always they look military-esque.
Oh, fuck.
They're dressed military-esque now. Back then, it wasn't like that. Back then, it was like
Makes it scary to go to the
it,
airport.
well, it makes
You're kinda, like,
not even at the
intimidated.
airport. Like it's changed how our police are citizens. Because you remember like a police officer. Like if has anybody ever seen? I want to say the movies The Rookie or like there's a guy who does the sirens. Woo woo woo. Like they're running around with fake guns like during a riot or some shit like that.
Oh man.
But cops back then, it was like an actual like Navy like officer hat. It was they dressed very easy to talk to. They were for the
They
public.
were
They
more
had-
approachable.
very approachable, but now they're like dressed like the
Dressed
military. They have
militarized,
military
yeah.
weapons. They have military because now it's
Thank you,
national
Patriot
terrorism.
Act.
Yeah,
Thank you, Patriot Act.
all from 9/11.
Yeah.
We militarized, and that's the
And now
correct term,
that's the
militarized.
thing. That's part of that's part
It's
of the
normal.
narrative. It's like, oh, people are afraid of cops. Cops are shooting black people. In the back, all this weirdness, and it's another divide between the people.
Well, it's
It's
considered
another
normal now.
fight.
I remember like when we were growing up, it's like weird to see them with military weapons. It was
Yeah.
weird to see
No,
them.
they were fucking some shit up
Well-
if they needed the SWAT team. And
When we
all
were
that
growing
stuff,
up, we all
like,
wanted to be cops and firemen anyways. Now it's like,
It's like, yeah, I don't.
Well,
think I
and
can
again,
do
the
that, yeah.
different agenda.
don't
Maybe
even
it could
wanna
be some
fucking-
ignorance too on our part, but
like half the time you don't even
But back
want to
then-
talk to them now. Like you see one and you're kind of like, what the fuck's going down
Let's
in
see,
town?
What's,
You know
what's
what I
the
mean?
first thing that runs through your head when you see a
It's
cop?
like nervousness. It's
Yeah.
instantly.
Fear.
Instant nervousness.
so actually, when I worked,
Why?
because I actually worked in the field of law enforcement, and the first thing they said is people do get nervous. So like, use your words. Talking is a very important tool because our presence is it's actually the use of force continuum. Presence is the first use of force. So being there makes
Just
people
that
anxious.
authoritative figure
Yes,
that
because you're there. You're
intimidation.
you have a badge. You're in uniform.
Yep.
Second is your words. So you can use your words in two different ways. You can use it to de-escalate, or you can use it to like to command, to
Enforce.
demand.
Yeah.
Yeah, enforce. Yeah, that's officers of 2000s. I'll see if I can pull it up. Maybe put it on the camera. Images. So like, they looked kind of like they do when they're graduating their academy. Like they had more. I have a picture right here. Like, that's how I remember them looking.
Yeah.
yeah, that's so funny.
Like that's how they used to look, like all around the streets and stuff like that, all the time. Like, and that even then, it didn't quite look like that. It was more like it was real soft. It wasn't intimidating, wasn't threatening. They weren't. I mean,
No, the police force has become militarized. And
yeah,
it's-
like
it's
awful and modern now.
Unfortunate, because that was something that, you know, I think when I was a kid, that was that ideal that you grew up that the police were always somebody that you wanted.
They were
to
trustworthy.
go
Like,
to.
yeah.
Now it's like you really have to think. It's like, is this a situation that I want a cop here? Because
Now they look like that,
yeah.
militarized. Like I said, they look like
Yeah,
they look
because now everybody's scared. You know what I mean?
They look militarized. So like back then it wasn't like that. Now it is, but that after like it was fears down in America, and we're gonna do everything we can to protect you. NSA, militarize our police force, give them big fucking guns and weapons and
Well,
shit
it's
like that.
They made you afraid of everything. They made you afraid to go outside. They made you afraid to get on a plane.
Bro,
They made you
people
afraid
were
of people.
down too. People were down like, yeah, bring it on. Like, let's take away our rights. Like, we need to protect ourselves. Like, we need to protect the country. Needs to protect us.
Yep.
It was fun. Did they try taking guns then? I don't know. Like, I don't remember. Like, I don't like.
Really surprises me that they didn't push
Well,
harder.
I mean, maybe that was the
Stepping
too much.
stone.
Yeah, like because now it desensitized us to started taking
it's
our
hard.
rights.
It's hard to
'cause-
get the raw American spirit and take the guns at the same
Yeah.
time. So,
Well, but if you that used to when there was a shooting and stuff like that, you never heard of somebody even wanting to take guns.
well,
it's
I don't know
as
about
they
you,
took-
but 2001, the whole mass shooting thing wasn't a big deal. I know Columbine happened before that, but Columbine was
Nobody
the one
talked
that
about
really set
nobody.
it off.
Everybody's just like how'd they get them? Like these kids had troubles, they had issues, but nobody was talking about like take the guns away from them. Like
They've
that
all
was
been on psychotropic drugs.
yeah. So
Just-
if we honestly look back, it kind of started the trend of losing our freedoms.
Well, the Patriot Act. The Patriot Act was the big. That was
Yeah,
the
and
big, that was the money shot.
It
That was
came
the
with
one.
open arms too. People were
Yeah.
like, I remember people talking about it like they were a little
Please
weirded
take my
out.
Freedom. Yeah.
Well, they were like, I don't know, it's a lot of laws, but at the same point in time, like we
they
need
were
to stay
willing
safe.
to give it up because
Yeah.
of terror.
Man,
Yeah,
I think
they
that should
felt-
come up
they
too.
Felt safe.
Yeah, that there'd be a whole episode on all the laws that
That's just the Patriot Act.
maybe in the next episode we'll pull up 10 crazy ones that the Patriot Act was like.
part of the
Yeah,
Patriot
what
Act,
the
yeah.
fuck? Because again, like the police force was different.
It
How
was,
we,
yeah,
how,
yeah.
like everything,
It
like
got militarized because of the Patriot Act. Yeah, this whole
the
you
new
know, where you
security
can
that we
do-
need.
Well, the civil forfeiture. You know, when
Well-
you're accused of something.
And how the fuck has it
police
worked
come
for
in
us
and
too? Look at
fucking-
people dying of mass shootings now, like all over the place. Like it's not helped.
No.
Back
At
well,
all.
No, it doesn't done anything.
Well, here's
No,
something,
it's
too.
Just made us more fearful.
So you know who took automatic weapons away from people, and you want to know who took automatic weapons, like military men? They used to walk around weapons. They took them away. You know who did that? Clinton.
Uh-huh.
He put in an act that no, like there's gun-free zones.
Shocker.
He put an act of taking away automatic weapons. Like people don't need that. It's like you
Right.
still have weapons. They don't need
Yeah.
automatic weapons. He also made it to where service members don't carry weapons on them.
Right.
If you
Yeah,
have a felony,
like,
you can't join the military. Like he put a lot of that stuff into play. Clinton did that. The gun-free zones, like he is the first like big push towards that stuff.
Yeah, look what it got us.
Like not Hillary Clinton,
Oh,
Bill Clinton before he got his dick sucked.
Look how many innocent people have died since then because of it.
how many school shootings? How many mass shootings have
Gun-free
taken place
zones.
in a gun-free zone?
Yeah, I mean,
But what do you mean? Guns are illegal. You can't have that
can't,
here.
can't have guns. But I remember like I honestly remember gun racks. the shotguns
In
in
the
the
back of the
because I hunting and stuff. We drive around. We drive on to school. My grandpa drive on to school with the shotgun on the back of the truck.
Arizona too. You have to remember we're kind of still.
Yeah, but
Wild West.
we're talking in the '90s. It was still
Yeah.
like kind of okay, but '91 is when it really started pushing into effect. And like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just crazy to think that who's responsible for that.
Well, there used to be shooting sports in high schools. Kids used
There
to.
still
take
are.
their-
I think there's still a couple clubs out there that do it, but
Might be.
private schools.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
there
then
used to be-
literally, you used to be able to take your gun from your gun rack, take it into school.
yeah, I can
kill it.
imagine that now.
Yeah, like yeah.
that kid would end up dead.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just because of the and officers are afraid too now of the people.
Yeah, because there's how many people have been shot just reaching for their phone or their fucking ID because
Yeah.
you know the cops are so scared.
Well,
Cops are
again,
up on edge
I don't-
'cause there's more fear. It's not cops versus civilians. It's just fucking fear. The general
Yeah.
populace is more and more.
And again,
fearful.
I don't like pointing fingers, but it really a lot of this happened. And I don't know if it's his fault or not in the Obama administration, where it became us versus you versus us, and like everybody started fearing each other.
Yeah.
And I read this thing, and it said people would fear each other less if we just talked to each other more. Because like you'd find out that your neighbors aren't as crazy as you think they are. Some of them are. I mean,
Yeah.
tweakers, you know. But a lot of them are just normal people like you, just living your lives like
Yeah.
day
Just
to
trying
day,
bump
doing
it around,
living,
make sense of the world,
living,
just like all of us.
yeah. So let's bring this up next episode. I think this is where we'll stop here today. I think it's a good stopping point. Hour and a half.
Good episode. Yeah.
Yeah, we went over a lot of stuff. We're gonna do a special though. We're gonna release it next Wednesday. We'll probably shoot on maybe on Sunday or Saturday afternoon
Yeah.
or something like that. But I think this is gonna be an important thing to talk about. I'd really like to have a secondary special. So if you're listening, thank you for staying along.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
We'll definitely do. We have to now. So we'll
We're
see.
getting deep now.
Yeah. Well, now it's time to talk about. We talked about the seriousness. We talked about everything that's the questions. But now let's talk about like all the fuckery that I'm actually gonna look up the things the government released
That
saying
said
this is what happened, and then the
yeah.
people who debunked that. So the debunks. I'm gonna try to cover the debunks, and you know like those were the things that people were like, well, you know, like when you first started asking questions, it's like they said this happened, and it shows like, well, that didn't happen. It looks CGI.
Yeah. Well, here's one for me. It's all this devastation that happened on that day, and they were able to say that it was Middle Eastern terrorists and hijacked because they found their passports.
Dude, right out the gate.
They found their passports from the rubble, like 1.8 million tons of dust and vaporized human.
Did they really
beings.
say
Right
that?
out the gate. Yep.
Yeah.
And we're for sure that they said
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
they didn't just use like they traveled, they had tickets. And
No, they said all their passports.
They survived.
Yep.
They
I
found,
mean,
The
the
fire, the
planes
burning,
got
everything.
obliterated.
Yeah. No, they still have the terrorist passports. Believe it or not, they survived. Yeah. They had them on their person when the plane hit the buildings, and they survived. Fucking piece of paper. Yeah.
I don't even think they recovered the black boxes from those.
No.
Yeah, those things are enforced too,
they're-
like
they're
and
in
reinforced.
millions
It's like,
Where the
fucking
fuck those
pieces.
go?
Yeah. No.
huh?
Yeah.
See, you're like, oh.
That's
we're
what I'm
gonna
saying,
say-
and that's the
It just
government.
doesn't-
That is a true
Perfect.
narrative.
That's what we'll talk
from
about.
the government that said, "Oh, here's passports. Look at these.
Yeah.
These were."
And all of a sudden, man, I can only imagine the people that are here, like the Muslims that moved here from like those countries, because they're war torn countries, and like just wanting to be here, like we
Just
moved
want to be an
America,
American.
and all of a sudden it's
Yeah.
like, because World War II, Japan, we took them and we put them on
We put them in
camps.
internment camps
Yeah.
on American soil.
Could you imagine being like
People
like,
forget about that. People don't know. People alive today, unless they were alive during that time, people alive today don't realize that.
Yeah,
that
we
happened.
put we
We
grounded
had
them all up because we were
American
afraid of them.
citizens that were of Japanese descent, and we put them all in fucking cages and said, "You're gonna stay here until the war's over."
Could you imagine though
And we got you
being
vetted.
like just moving your family here from like you're like, oh, I love America, yeah,
yeah,
like
and
Borat
they get
type,
locked in a
love it.
cage for fucking.
Well, now I'm talking about World War II.
2
Even
years.
then, all of a sudden everybody hates you.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
Yeah.
and there's people because everybody thinks of the Middle East as just like a bunch of Muslims, but there's Christians over there. There's
it's extremely
Dude,
diverse.
yeah,
There's,
that's-
there's
yeah.
Buddhists. There's Hindu.
there's some that wear the hat
there's-
like the
there's-
the turbans, but like
The
they're not
the
Shiites,
Shiites
yeah,
and
and
the
everybody gets them
Sikhs
confused, and
and-
the
yeah.
sheiks, and they'll
But
start cussing them
There
out. So it's
again,
like,
there's
yeah.
the narrative. These are your enemy. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Flash the
there's
pictures.
no-
generalized group of people is
This is
bad.
this is their
But-
color. These are the bad guys.
Yeah.
So and they,
which is
they
crazy to
pick
think
those.
because a lot of those people are pro America and pro us, and like they don't like them either. Like they're like the extremists.
They don't
like
want
the
to
like
be
extremists.
in a war-ravaged country. You know, they don't want the Taliban or
Well, they're
whatever,
fighting
whoever
the
they say
extremists
it
because the
is.
extremists are
Yeah.
attacking them too. Like they've been attacking us too. Like we're friends, and then all of a sudden they walk through the American streets. Americans are throwing shit at them and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's like these people,
And that's what's
Aren't bad
happening now.
people.
Being a Trump supporter.
Yeah, just be saying that you're a Trump supporter. You're
Yeah.
getting attacked, getting your hats
Fucking-
flipped off, getting hit with stuff, and
What
getting.
happens when it's
chased down
because
the
you like
streets.
Coca-Cola instead of Pepsi?
Yeah, dude.
Well, how
it's getting
divided do we have to
ridiculous.
be? You know, like I
It's pretty fucking ridiculous right now. So how far is it gonna go?
don't know. This is where we're actually episode 2 is gonna have to really touch.
I know. Look
into.
at Rage Cage over here with the fucking pineapple on pizza. Fucking.
Well, it is pretty gross. So there's another one too. It's pineapple on pizza, and there's, gosh, what was the other thing? There's another weird mixture. Like some people like eating Cheetos and milk.
What the fuck?
Yeah,
I could see Cheetos and like sour cream or ranch, but
No.
fucking milk.
eating it in milk like cereal.
Oh,
I knew a dude that used to put mayonnaise in his iced tea.
what the fuck? Ugh.
Okay, not mayonnaise, Miracle Whip. That's what he's.
Like
Oh,
a
dude,
sweeter-
Miracle Whip.
Yeah,
Oh,
he's sweet.
that's even
his
worse.
Iced tea with Miracle Whip. It's like.
At least
What the
nobody would
fuck,
drink it.
dude?
You know,
Yeah.
and you're like you have it. Nobody's drinking.
Yeah,
that.
no shit. That's true.
Well, guys, we appreciate you staying along. Anything you want to say before we go?
Oh man.
No, you good?
Take it easy, guys. Thank you.
Oh.